Welcome to No One, but I hope people are going to come in. And for future viewers, today I assembled a crack team to sort of help me decide what good faith criticism is and not, and what we think about it in general. There's a couple of experiences I've had over times where I might have not been as good faith as I could have been with a certain media project, but we'll be getting into it. Uh who wants to start? What do they think good faith criticism is in media?
Well, I'll go first. Um, Personally, I feel like it's trying to remove your biases and as much as you can, and trying to see the film or the whatever it is, right? At first, as it is intended, and then maybe layering on like any kind of interpretations you have that you feel like are relevant, but not necessarily something that the film is trying to say. Something like how Barbie, right, is like it's trying to tell a certain message, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff in there that is maybe not necessarily intentional that I feel like is still relevant to comment on and to interpret in. And so for me, that's kind of like what good faith criticism is.
Okay, remove biases. Hmm?
Yeah, so
Harold?
that's pretty close to what I was going to say, but I guess I'm going to add on a little bit. You really want to take something as it is instead of trying to criticize it as though it's something else. Like as an example, if you don't like a certain genre, it's not really a valid criticism to say that the whole genre is bad because there are people who enjoy it and it's trying to appeal to those people, not you. So, that's a pretty easy example of kind of a rancid criticism is like I don't like horror movies. Like if I was to say, well, this horror movie is bad because it's horror, it's just it's a pretty dumb thing to say. It's not particularly productive. And then beyond that, like the whole purpose of media criticism and art criticism in general, it's like an intersubjective conversation. It's not just about you. So like if I think of bad faith arguments, what they're very often doing is basically someone is trying to enforce their values and preferences on other people, and that can be pretty annoying. Like if I was gonna criticize something as legitimately being bad, I would want to basically say, by the goals of what this thing is doing, it is not working. That's basically what you would want to do. So like Christopher Nolan's sound mixing is bad because the exposition is there to be heard, and we can't hear the exposition if the sound mixing doesn't allow us to hear the dialogue. So the purpose of the story doesn't work. That would be, a very good criticism, I think, that a lot of people would agree with on the merits of the thing, taking it as it is, as opposed to just saying, well, Oppenheimer is bad because biopics suck, which is honestly something I kind of feel, but that's not something that I would say.
Yeah, there's an
Yeah.
optically good way and bad way to present arguments also. That's a totally different conversation, which we might get into.
Well, I think I have kind of like the easy spot here because I get to kind of follow up both of you. And I agree a lot with that. And I think a lot of the criticism that like Barbie got, for instance, was kind of bad faith. It was, this movie isn't what I think it should be, as opposed to like criticizing what it actually is. The other thing that I think is, so I totally agree with both of your definitions. The only thing that I'd add on to that too is I've seen a lot recently where it's like, this person or this video is bad because this person associates with X, or this person believes, I don't know, just the whole like, this is bad because the person has bad friends or is associated with bad in some way. I don't know. I think that's extremely bad faith criticism. And it seems like this guilt by association thing keeps coming up with like YouTube criticism. I particularly hate that. But
yeah, I wonder who
think
you
I've
could be
seen it
talking
in-
about.
Yeah, no, nobody in particular. But I think I did see some of that as well with like Barbie, where people wanted to bring in like, but do you know who Greta Gerwig associates with? Do you know like these beliefs, instead of actually saying like, hey, here's what I don't like about the movie. I guess that could be a form of criticism, but I don't know. It seems very bad faith to me, rather than like kind of examining a piece of art for what it is.
Yeah. So
Right.
at a high level, it's kind of impossible to tell this, but ideally, a good faith piece of criticism would be trying to arrive at the truth, or trying to arrive at a shared truth among people or something like that. Whereas a lot of bad faith criticism is just trying to win an argument, and it's rather difficult to tell when people are doing one or the other. I typically try not to speculate on people's motivations, but when you see someone who's being really bad faith, it is pretty much always the case that they're they're trying to win an argument, or they're trying to win an optics game or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually have a video out on a particular YouTuber,
Oh,
Organized Chaos. Yeah. And the video is called Organized Chaos is Systemically Bad Faith. And
Yep.
what I tried to show in that video, or what I believe I showed in that video, was that somebody, even if you're not intentionally being bad faith, if you're reproducing the same effects, if you're so biased that you're basically lying to your audience, then it's the same thing as bad faith.
Well, almost no one ever tries to be bad faith. I mean, like,
Right,
I think it's
exactly.
cope most of the time.
Right. And so that's why I went with systemically bad faith, because I was uninterested in trying to prove his intentions. I just wanted to demonstrate that by listening to this guy and his perspectives on other YouTubers and media and such, you're not going to be able to arrive at what you said, a commonly understood
understanding.
facts. Yeah, you're not going to be able to arrive at any kind of truth.
Yes.
If you watch the thing, if you watch the content of what he's talking about yourself, you will come away with a different perspective, more likely than not, than him.
Okay. And sometimes you can look at the truth, what's truthful in the media. Like, I have a video lined up. I don't think I need to actually play it, but something noticed me. If you know of someone called SK, associated with Southpaw, he did a whole sort of stream going over. Patrick was in the chat with me, and he was talking about all these people shooting, all the rebels shooting and missing the stormtroopers. And I'm like, how? So the idea is,
In
how
which
much do you know
particular-
about the rebels? How good is their training? What's their psychological makeup? Because training matters a lot, and plus technically they're not even humans, so who knows how they differentiate. I could ask so many questions in response to sort of probe at his sort of nitpicking act, because he's one of these people from the EFAP. I'm just saying, just nitpicking sometimes has a lot of problems. And also what Gray was saying, he didn't want to say it, but some people say, like with Critical Drinker, I also have some videos lined up, like both Turf Nation and Pillar of Garbage doesn't seem to understand where Critical Drinker's coming from to criticize him. Because I
do you think that
Jake
comes
Harvey
from like
was
the
bad.
EFAPing? Is it because
Not
they're pausing so
necessarily.
much
It's
that
definitely
they're
a
not hearing
part. I mean, there's definitely Mahler, who sort of established that objective criticism, and I saw Parallax video on that about objective criticism. I liked it, but the optics of that video comes off a little bit interesting, Parallax. But I do agree with your general assessment, but the wording could have been worked. That's a slight criticism for that video of yours.
Which was it, the second video on my second channel?
No, it's the recent one, Media Discourse 101.
Oh yeah, that video is dog shit. I unlisted it after less than a day. It's not
Yeah.
Oh,
a wonder.
really?
I
Oh,
was
I need
sick.
a copy.
Yeah, I was sick when I made it. I uploaded it, and I like, every time I make anything, I need to be able to listen to it at least like 5 times. So like, usually over the course of the next day when I'm exercising, I'll go back and rewatch it or listen to it while I'm walking around and stuff. And I couldn't
Wow.
even get through 5 minutes
That's
of it. I was
commitment.
like, there's something just completely fucked about my intonation. I was just that video is dog shit. I'm not defending
Yeah.
that
Wow,
video at all.
that just shows commitment and like, wow, really makes me feel like I'm just kind of putting out trash. I'm definitely not listening back to everything 5 times. Wow. Yeah, that kind of gives me goals, but wow.
Yeah.
So even now, like with you setting the internet ablaze and everything, like knowing that you're definitely capable of doing a compelling video, even now you still have to listen to it like 5 times before you post it.
Yeah, well, so the thing is, there's tons of different aspects of making videos, and some aspects I'm very comfortable with. Like, I'm good enough. See, this is kind of a problem because I've been working on this now for like a year, doing stuff people have mostly not seen, but I'm very comfortable with my ability to do motion graphics. I'm very comfortable with my ability to write a video. There's elements of writing that I need to improve, but I don't think I'm ever going to write a bad main channel video. That seems very unlikely. One of the things I have to improve the most on is basically public speaking. It's learning how to use intonation and pacing and stuff with my speech to deliver a satisfying audio experience, and I'm not particularly good at that. So like the re-listening to the videos,
I've always enjoyed you on streams. Like I don't know, as a listener, it's like I always enjoyed you kind of like interjecting and being kind of the voice of the opposition, if you will.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've just always enjoyed it every time you're on a stream. So that seems weird that I don't know. You think you'd necessarily need to work on that? I feel like you are very articulate and
well, you gotta
express
understand
yourself
these
very
things get better over time. Like if you watch my first appearance on Such an Atom, it was like 2 years ago. It is blatantly obvious to me that I was terrible at public. Like I just had no experience with it. And partially from going on EFAP and Such an Atom and all these other streams, I have gotten better. But like I have high aesthetic standards, let's put it that way. So like I always see area for improvement. And in particular, like if you like you I would agree with you most of the time. I think I do a pretty decent job now. But this video is an exception. If you listen to it, it's dog shit. I'm telling you, it's not a good video. The way I speak sucks.
Well,
It was-
practice makes perfect, and you were
Yeah.
coming off probably from a sickness.
Yeah, the entire reason I made that video is because I felt too bad to do what I had planned to do. So I was like, all right, well, I feel like shit. I guess I'll make a second channel video. And that is apparently not a very good idea. Because if I'm not feeling my best, the video isn't going to be good.
Okay, so Tiamat brought up a good issue. Is good faith even possible?
I think
Yes.
so. I think with
easily.
charity,
You
I
can
think
make
that
the
if
attempt.
you are conscious of trying to interject charity, then I think that goes a long way. I don't think that you're going to be able to be perfect. You could misunderstand things. You can have a unrecognized bias that
Or you could be
la-
going
later,
for
especially if it's pointed out later that you
over-
can kind of recognize maybe. But I think that if you know that you can be biased and you recognize like
yeah, you recognize
that-
your own
yeah.
biases, you can take it out. But can you make it
Mhm.
entertaining? That's also a good question that I thought of. Because a lot of people who are trying to be good faith, I believe, tend not to have the greatest content. Is it
Hmm.
a byproduct of that? It's just boring and the internet's crazed with wanting to see arguments, because a lot of people say debates do not change people's minds.
Oh, I know a tremendous
I
amount
think-
about this topic.
Hmm. I think that the easiest way to be more entertaining and the easiest way to kind of inject kind of like, I don't know if like saying charisma directly, but like trying to be charismatic, right? Trying to be entertaining. The easiest way to do that is to exaggerate the truth, lean into your bias. Perhaps, I don't want to necessarily say lie, but like, yeah,
Yeah, that's
these
typically
kinds of
what I
things,
see.
right? You're gonna be more appealing that way to certain people, right? But you will naturally be
Yes, confidence.
that
As
more
each
bad
Palmer guy
faith.
said, the confidence talks with confidence, even if he's not sure. And a lot of people do go by that.
Sure, and there is that, right? But I think that that also points out that whether or not you are good faith is almost a separate category.
Okay.
Um,
Entertainment and trying to get to the truth is separate. Can they not meet in the middle?
well, I don't mean what I mean is that they're not opposed, right? It's
Okay.
just that
You can
it's
be good
the
faith and
easiest
negative.
way.
Okay.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying you can be good faith and negative.
Your thoughts
Yeah.
on that parallax, that sort of dynamic?
All right, I'll try and spare you the lecture because I could probably talk about this particular topic for an hour. But the internet content is first and foremost entertainment, and just like
Yep.
Andrew, is that your name? And just like
Yeah.
Andrew said, the easiest way to be entertaining is to take a dump on something. It's a very easy way to accomplish that goal. It's like doing media criticism on easy mode, basically. Like there's lots of people that people think of as entertaining media critics that could never for a second be entertaining if they had to make a positive video. It's just a completely different thing because it's so easy. It's so easy to be just like you said, funny and confident when you're being negative about something, and there's a pretty substantial market for it. Now, the thing that at least I believe I'm acting on, I've pushed all of my chips into this corner. What I don't think is that this is the only thing there's a market for. I think that because negative criticism basically is very easy to make entertaining, lots of people have done it. So most of the media channels that you would think of are predominantly negative. I mean, you can just see it in people's names. Your movie sucks. I hate everything. If you think of the vast majority of people who have been popular talking about film on the internet, they've been predominantly very, very negative for that reason. However, that's not the only thing that people would like. Citing Every Frame of Painting as an example is an exclusively positive channel, and that's probably the most overall well-regarded channel about film ever. I can't think of another channel that is overall, people have a better average opinion of than Every Frame of Painting. There's other examples like Super Eye Patch Wolf makes predominantly positive videos as well. I personally think there are lots of people who are interested in that, and that is what I am doing, is trying to learn how to be entertaining while doing positive content. It is much more difficult, but there's a good Mr. Beast quote about that. He said something to the effect of like, it's easier to get clicks being negative, but you can do it being positive too. It's just harder. And I think that's basically all there is to it. Like you can talk about film and be entertaining, and be positive. It's just harder. And I think there is a market for it. I guess we will see with my new channel once I finally get things really going. But yeah, I mean that's basically what I'm betting on. And also with the good faith thing, I don't think there's anything intrinsic to being negative that would make it bad faith. I mean, I've been negative towards tons of things, where my negativity is driven by years of research or thinking about something, right? If my Django Unchained video, if someone said that was bad faith, that's absurd. It's extremely thoughtful and well researched, but also very negative. So I don't think there's necessarily any connection between positive or negative feedback and good or bad faith. I think the good faith thing largely comes from the motivation someone has. Like if you're actually interested in someone else's point of view, then I think you're almost certainly going to be good faith.
Okay. So yeah, I agree. You go for the attempt. You try to figure out the attempt of the author of any piece of media before moving forward, or what you might disagree with their sort of analysis style or what they value within the media, but does not necessarily mean that they're being bad faith. They have just a different perspective. From my point of view, I got in an argument recently where someone thought they got a got you on me because I was talking about rain within the universe, even though it's not depicted in the actual game. I find it ridiculous that just because it's not coded into a game, that it's so hard for people to conceptualize that It would rain in the game. It's just very rare because it's a desert setting pretty much.
Yeah. I think that goes back to what I was talking about, the principle of charity.
Yes.
You gotta afford charity to people's positions first before you start like deconstructing them or criticizing them, because otherwise you are going to come off as or replicate the same effects as bad faith. If you can't see somebody else's perspective, then if you can't replicate, if your perspective doesn't, what do you call it? Your criticism doesn't reflect what's in the thing itself, in the sense that like other people watching the original thing can't see what you've said, then I feel like you've erred somewhere along the way. Your bias is in there. There's a lack of charity. I don't know if I'm coming across correctly, but
So to give an example, because I agree with you, and I think I can clear this up a little bit.
thank you.
Let's say that I argue that Interstellar is a flawed movie, and I make five arguments supporting that. The very typical thing to happen on the internet is that if someone disagrees with me, they will just focus on the worst of those 5 arguments and ignore the others. And then if they're able to successfully counter the worst argument that I made, they'll act like they won the entire conversation. Operating with the principle of charity is basically just trying to do the opposite of that. If someone made 5 arguments, you try and respond to the best argument they made instead of trying to respond to the worst.
That would be the strongest way.
Yeah, and if you're,
or at least acknowledge that the other 4 exist. Like, let's say you're like, oh, I agree with the other 4, right? They made good points, but let's focus on this one because I really feel like it's very wrong.
yeah, it's fine.
By affording the charity of acknowledging the other arguments have validity, that they exist, but you for some reason want to focus on this one, then you can see it's self-evident that it's good faith. I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, that's basically what good faith is supposed to mean.
Right.
Like we're stumbling over a problem here that I'm not going to go into, but the concept of good and bad faith are pretty ill-defined, and everyone kind of has their own idea.
Yeah.
Like with the I ended up in that morass with the fucking Vosh video, even though I very explicitly defined what I meant by it. That was still one of the main responses people had, was bickering about the arguments about what good and bad faith mean. But personally, I think the best conception of good faith is like the principle of charity.
Yes. Principle of charity. And sometimes you sort of you also see what I find sort of there tend to be core premises for these criticism. Like with the Starfield discourse, it seems to be really insane. I don't want to go too much into details on that, but a lot of the criticism based on really dishonest framing. Like someone had a tweet where they spec'd it down and they're like talking about the graphics, and they're like, someone made it look that bad, and people are just running with it. But that's a general premise. There's plenty to criticize Starfield for. It's just a general example of that in particular.
Another thing, if you want to try and be good faith, is to ignore the dumb things people say on Twitter.
Yeah, right.
Yes, marketing and ignoring the discourse is
that would help.
absolutely how you would go. Like with Barbie, the marketing, a lot of people focus on misleading marketing. Same thing happens with a lot of Bethesda games, the misleading marketing. And you can criticize those places, well, at least for Bethesda with Todd Howard. But with Barbie, that seems a little bit.
Can you say it is a mislead though? Like I think it's people misinterpreting it, but I think like it was a marketing like titan, like just the way that they did that, like put the boxes in certain theaters and everything. Like I don't know, it just seemed like, you know, amazing marketing. I guess I can understand if people like missed like certain parts in that trailer, but to me, it just seems like it's people bringing in like their preconceived notion. It's not necessarily that they deceptively marketed it, but so I'm open to the fact that I might be biased.
Actually, hold on. because I can actually steelman the deceptive marketing of Barbie. I think that
So-called
a
deceptive
lot.
marketing.
Well, yeah. Um,
If we're being good faith
yeah.
about it.
Right. I would say that the things that they didn't include were kind of spoilers, right?
Yeah.
And so I would, in a sense, I would actually prefer more of that marketing, or a lean in that direction. Let's say, where we're not like just doing a montage of the best scenes, or the most controversial scenes, or in that sense that you can actually have a kind of appreciation of the aesthetic of the film without being spoiled any of the plot points. And I really feel like that is one way to accurately describe what they did with Barbie. There is a counter to what I've just said, but I feel like what I've just
Yeah.
said about the Barbie marketing isn't untrue.
Okay. See what
Yeah, I
Just to
can
let
totally
you
see
know,
that.
I've been
I just
championing Barbie among this group of people I talk to. Haven't I, Catru and
Mhm.
Pat? It's not Patrick, sorry. Gray.
Yeah, we should really get you
Sure,
for one
sure.
of our Barbie discussions. We've had
Oh,
several.
God. We've been having way too many. Let's
I
not.
don't know. We don't have anyone that like hates Barbie though. I think we need that.
Talk to
Um,
Sitch.
I can
I've
exactly.
seen,
I have many issues with his take on it.
Yeah.
I think he's bringing way too much into this, and I think that's the same thing with like the people who saw that trailer and are like, okay, this is for my 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, first off, it's PG-13. Second off, she's like talking about like, okay, but does anyone just think about death? I can't remember the exact
well,
line,
no, okay.
but it's like
Here's the thing.
I wouldn't want to have that conversation with a 9-year-old.
Well,
Like, I would just let them,
Hold-
blissfully enjoy Elemental or whatever was out at the time.
Last weekend, because I love Barbie. I
Well,
drove
you shouldn't have
3
met her.
hours. I drove 3 hours to watch Barbie in theaters with a friend, and the road in front of us was filled with 8 to 10-year-olds, kids, both boys and girls.
Well, they're so much more mature than back in the day.
But yeah, I'm just saying that parents are bringing that age range to the theater, so it's not.
I don't think that's on the marketing.
But that's
though. I
on
think
that's on the
parents.
parent. Yeah, but again, I would say that's on the parents.
Personally, I think the like marketing and the film are different conversations. Although
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
very,
absolutely.
it's very understandable if a film is marketed poorly and someone doesn't like it. Like the example of that sticks out in my mind is if you've seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. My
Yeah,
personal favorite
for
romance
sure.
film of all time had terrible marketing. I think it was especially the first teaser trailer had Mr. Blue Sky and it made it look like a fucking rom-com.
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna say. I
uh-huh.
remember thinking
Yeah.
that was a comedy when I went in to see it. Like, it's a powerful film, but
Did you
uh,
ever see
the other one that did that, the trailer for American Splendor. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's done on
Yeah,
Netflix,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
like,
I remember
they made it
that
seem
fucking
like
trailer.
such a comedy.
Yeah, and it's
remember
like the
going
most
into
fucking
the theater, like,
depressing
with my
movie.
dad, and
It's
Yes,
Paul
it was
Giamatti
just-
trying to not kill himself for 2 hours.
Well,
Like,
and then gets cancer. Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Did you see
But
Weatherman?
I had the same
'Cause
type
that
of feeling.
reminds me of Weatherman.
Yeah, I think they had a thing going on with the trailer for that one too.
Yeah, the Weatherman was the same kind of thing where it was very upbeat and funny trailer, but then all of the scenes that they had that they showcased in the trailer that were actually in the movie went on long enough to become unfunny and sad and depressing.
Mm.
So I don't even even to this day, I don't know if Weatherman is the funniest tragedy or the saddest
Most
comedy.
tragic comedy. So I think I explained this a little bit horribly. I feel like a lot of the criticism for Barbie is in bad faith because a lot of it is coming back to like, well, this was marketed for kids and this isn't a kids movie. Is a lot of the negativity that I'm hearing on it. I
Yeah,
feel like
and that would
is
be what I would
bad
consider
faith
bad
criticism.
faith. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's what I
Yeah.
was trying to get at. Sorry, I took us on a tangent
Oh,
and never
yeah,
actually
yeah.
like followed through
Yeah.
on that point. That was why I was going down.
the only Barbie marketing that I actually saw was memes on Twitter about Barbenheimer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I didn't see
That
much
was
of
mostly
And
that.
I
what
don't think
yeah,
any of that was really
same,
planned. But
mostly.
maybe.
They're
I
not
saw,
confident
like,
enough to plan that.
I saw Little Platoon's video and it started like 20 minutes with just a preamble for the marketing. And I always find that a little bit odd when I wouldn't call it poisoning the well. It just seems a little bit odd when you're reviewing a movie and you bring up the marketing first. Because frankly, I
Yeah.
like
Well, it
advocating
depends.
for
If
death
you're
of
going
the
through it
author.
chronologically, then you would talk about the marketing first.
That's
actually,
more of a
it-
personal experience. You can talk
Yeah.
about marketing
Well, the thing is,
separately.
I actually have to defend that because, like, personally, I would never talk about marketing in a review because who gives a flying fuck? But if you're going to talk about marketing, the purpose of a review is to, like, presumably talk to an audience of people who haven't seen the movie and explain whether or not they're going to like it and give them an idea of whether or not they're going to enjoy that experience. So, to the audience
Yeah.
that you're trying to talk to, the only thing they've seen is the marketing. So, that has to be the first thing that you talk about.
It's also
it-
how you
Fair enough.
present it.
I have-
Like interviews about
I have just a
afterwards.
slight
he added
tangent
in.
on that. Is it fair to criticize something that you've just seen the trailer for, or should that be off limits?
Well,
like,
as long
obviously,
as
you
you're
could say like
talking
whether or
about-
not you want to see it, but can you criticize the trailer? Would that be in bad faith?
You can criticize the
If you
trailer,
haven't
but you
seen the
can't criticize
actual-
the film.
Yeah,
Okay, I would
exactly, same
definitely
here.
go down that route, but I think I've seen like recently a lot of people saying like, "Well, you didn't even see the film, so you can't talk about it." And it's like, no, I think I can talk about what's in that trailer, and I can tell you why it doesn't appeal to me.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. Would that technically be bad faith? Sorry for the diversion. I just
As long as
thought
you-
I'd
as
like
long as
some
you're
other
clear-
opinions. Like, am I looking at this weird?
As long as you're
Yeah.
clear that you're talking about the trailer and not the film, I don't see a problem with it at all.
Well,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
Critical Drinker, he made a video going over the trailer of Prey, and when the film came out, he actually had to retitle the video because people thought that it was a review of the film in general when he was really just talking about the trailer. And he actually praised the film itself, but people kept citing the trailer reaction as as him trashing the movie without seeing it. So he had to retitle it to make things more clear. But then people also then will say that, oh, he changes the title of his video and he gets pushback. And it's like,
Well,
I
that's
feel like
clearly
that
bad
criticism-
faith. You're trying to.
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that
yeah.
I feel is bad faith towards the reviewer.
It's one of the dumbest fucking things that you can say in the world is like someone figured out that they made a mistake and tried to rectify it, and you're like trying to chew them out for that as though that's not exactly what they're supposed to do. Like,
Yeah.
that's
you
just
proved you
dumb
make
as fuck.
mistakes.
Yeah, also
I feel
doubling
that is
down and
extremely bad faith.
trying to double down, and I definitely would be bad faith to try to come back around to sort of double down on something, retract or change the conversation to something completely different. Like
Yeah.
with Heels versus Babyface, he tried to make it about wokeness. It's not about my sort of outrage about Bethesda and the game.
Well, he has to do that because he looked like the fucking
I-
dumbest person on the internet. So he has
Still
to
look-
find an angle. I mean,
I agree. He has to do that,
So-
but he's still
That was-
I see a
that
little
was
differently,
one of
though,
the-
but, like, he had the
that was-
angle that he's going at in there. It just wasn't the emphasis. Now he's just kind of.
Well, what is your perspective on
I guess you could call
what
that a
is your
different angle.
perspective on it? Because I mean, I don't blame anyone for thinking it's dumb because you know,
because it is dumb.
right? But like,
I
what
don't-
is
I
your
can't
perspective
find
on
any
what
What would
happened?
the
Because
option
I've heard people complain incorrectly about what it is.
Yeah.
I've
What, you mean
also
the-
heard
you mean
people
the actual
defend it
thing in Starfield?
incorrectly. No, well, because some people think that he was raging at it from when he encountered it at the character creation screen, but this was several hours in after he hit several points of current day issues, and he just referenced the whole thing. It wasn't that he went off on it at the character creation screen like so many people think and have complained about. I think
And-
defending people off of wrong points is bad, and I think that like if people are saying like when people defend Hassan, right, and put words in his mouth that he never said, that's bad. But
I mean,
also
the
think
game
that
the game could have you
criticizing people.
The game could have you take off your fucking your astronaut outfit, put on a drag queen outfit, and then explain wokeness to children, and his reaction wouldn't be justified. So, like, I mean, he's
no,
gonna
no,
look
and
bad
that's fine.
regardless.
That's
It
fine.
doesn't
Fair
matter.
Right.
It
I mean,
doesn't
it is
matter what
definitely
the game did.
performative.
Well,
He's
okay, yeah.
he gets more clicks when he goes off. He
Mhm.
has definitely become more hyped in the last few years.
Well, yeah,
No,
I mean, that's
I
just
had
that's
for
the
sure.
standard discourse cycle. I mean,
I
I
kind
used
of
to do
understand
that.
the point that he's saying, though, that like, I don't know that everything needs to be ejected in there. That being said, like, this seems like he's making a mountain out of a molehill to me personally,
Yeah.
but I guess it's the straw that broke the camel's back to him, so to speak. But
Yeah, and his
I-
media literacy
I don't know,
was
he did
completely
mention the whole
stupid
monitor-
with the scene that made him go off. It's like he was looking for
yeah,
a problem.
I mean,
in it.
she's not
Yeah.
trans.
There
or
are
anything.
people
It's
who
just
look
a
at the
clone.
problem.
Just to be
Which-
clear, of course he is. That's his job, is to look for things
Yes.
to get mad about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I
think
mean,
that a
come
good
on,
example-
like in that crew, the whole like modern,
Yeah.
like either modern film or modern, like that definitely keeps coming
Yeah,
up.
but
Like
pick your battles a
injecting
little bit
modern day into it.
more intelligently than that.
For sure.
That was just a bat.
For sure.
I mean,
no one's going
Do you
off of
see like
Baldur's
the
Gate
pronouns
3.
as a woke thing at all? Because like to me, the pronouns thing seems like it's just like literally walking the middle ground. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, if I don't put them in there, I'll alienate one group. If I put them in there, I'll alienate another. If I just put in they, like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
It feels like it's
It's
I
just
think
an
that-
attempt at a middle ground, but
I think that that was it pronouns being used in games is just a natural evolution of culture. I think that so many people want them, and if you don't, I think it defaults to whatever your body type is anyway. So I feel like
in this particular one,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Is
Oh.
the difference from what I understand? Like that's the difference. Like you can have body type A, but have pronoun.
well, no, it
C
defaults, but
or whatever.
you change it, right? So
Yes,
like
you can't
Yes,
change
can
it.
put-
you get to
I
change
think it
it.
defaults to the face.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. Yeah, exactly. But the point is that there is a natural, there is a default that makes sense to people who would complain about this, and so yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I'm not sure that it's a bad faith criticism. I think he's definitely making a mountain out of a
well,
I'm
I
molehill,
not
and then
saying
like
it's
he was
bad
super
faith.
performative.
I'm
but-
I think
saying
that-
his bias extremely gets in the way of how he sees it. Actually, personally, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
he is
Sure,
making
exactly.
it up
Yeah.
just to go off on it. But that's just my thoughts on it. I can't
Wait.
prove that his bias, that he's manufacturing this. Because
Also, just to throw this out there, I mean, he looks like the dumbest person in the world to most people, but it is entirely possible that it will turn out well for him that clip got distributed so much, because
Oh, it already.
I mean, if
has.
he's-
like,
yeah, if he's going to behave that way, then he's very clearly only interested in one audience of people, and that
Yep.
particular audience of people feels the same way. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
it's weird because like I mostly know him from like guest appearances on other shows, and he does not behave that way like on other shows. He's very tame. So I don't know. It was just kind of weird to see
Yeah,
that
but
side of him. And
his
then
own
when I dug in,
content
it's like,
is
oh, that's
very
what he
much-
does on this channel.
But his own content very much is like that. Maybe he doesn't explode all the time, but it very much is in that same vein. And you can tell that like there is definitely a bias towards this sort of thing that I would actually call bad faith. I would actually go that far. Because like if you look at what is it? The Last of Us television show. Somebody who generally, I don't want to say agrees with, but like they're on good terms. They have similar movie takes on things, or they care about similar things. EFAP's coverage of it versus his coverage of The Last of Us is stark. EFAP praised to high hell episode 3, 4, and 5. I think I want to say, whereas,
but what
Heel
did they
versus
praise
Babyface.
it for? Because
well, no, I mean they praised it for the
Well, it was
storytelling.
really
They
emotionally gripping.
praised it for
Yeah.
the storytelling, and all he could see were the woke aspects of both, and complain about how it destroyed the storytelling. When they really showed. They didn't address him specifically, but they addressed similar criticisms, and then they demonstrated, using the media itself, how those things are less charitable, I'll say.
Okay. Yeah,
If that
absolutely.
makes any sense.
Yeah, I haven't actually watched the Last of Us TV show. Enough people covered it. I seem to, so I can't speak on if it's well crafted or not. But what about this sort of going your own, crafting your own, going against the sort of general narrative? I mean, does bad faith sort of like with any of these instances sort of build on each other to play up to a market? Because definitely Bethesda's a hotbed because it went to let me get off this tangent. Sorry. I was going to go down a rabbit hole that I shouldn't in this discussion about good faith criticism.
If a public
Okay.
Yes, if a public.
Oh no.
Yes.
all right, sorry.
Oh,
So
if
great.
sorry. If there's
Yeah.
other people talking, if a public figure on a stream is basically doing something that's bad faith, it's almost certainly motivated by appealing to their audience.
Okay.
Very, very, very likely.
mhm.
Audience
because
capture or
It's not audience cap. Oh, I mean,
okay. I'm
I-
bringing
it's
that up.
it's hard to know. It's hard to know whether it's audience capture or not.
Or
but the
you
vast
trying to
majority-
capture a certain
The
audience.
vast majority of people will have a certain perspective, and if you say something against that perspective, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are about it. It doesn't matter what tone you express it in. If you say something they don't like, they will react very badly to it. So this is a longer conversation that I guess I can explain really quickly. People have a tendency to blame content creators for the way the content ecosystem is, and that is the opposite of how things actually work. The audience is what decides who gets popular. And you could like Thanos snap away all the content creators in any particular ecosystem, and it would end up exactly the same way. It's just other people would rise to fill those niches. So
Okay,
like
yeah.
people that have a particular perspective, let's say that a huge part of someone's identity is that they have nostalgia for Marvel and they're upset that modern Marvel movies are terrible. They are probably not going to want to hear someone talk about how good modern Marvel movies are under basically any circumstances. They're going to want to hear someone who is, pretty negative about it. And because of that, when you look at content creators, the vast majority of them are basically rep a particular perspective and then stick to it almost all of the time. And if you talk to them in private, what they will tell you is that they don't, they know how to pick their battles. Basically, they don't always agree with their audience, but they understand their audience well enough to know, this particular opinion, it's probably not worth saying this and causing a bunch of backlash and starting a bunch of nonsense over an opinion they're not going to agree with. And there's no getting around that. That's basically the way that this works. So like when you have people that are popular, they're almost certainly popular because they represent a particular perspective and because they appeal to a particular demographic, a particular subset of the audience, and they're not going to do things to upset them. I tell you that having done that, having had a popular channel and released a video that was the exact opposite of what my audience wanted to hear, it got 20% likes. Okay. It's not pleasant. You don't do it if you know what you're doing. But yeah.
Yeah. Not going to disagree that you generally have to appease. Can you foster? Does people really want honesty? People seeking honest opinions and serious criticism, like you brought up every
frame of
painting. Yeah.
Yes, you brought that up. That's something that seemed rather honest from everything I heard about it. Not really my cup of tea, but it seems like, and there's also the screenwriting channel.
It's not an honesty thing. Most people, what they want is a certain emotional experience. So like if somebody wants to feel like they want to understand film better and they want to hear positive conversation about film, then Every Frame of Painting is probably the best channel for them because that's the best place that you can get that sort of insight. He's genuinely insightful as an industry insider, and all of his content is positive. So it fills a very particular emotional demand.
It's very small, a smaller market, smaller audience on greater internet
Oh,
ecosystem.
he was
I
huge
don't
for-
I don't actually think that's true. I like I said earlier, I think it's just that making positive coverage well is more difficult.
Okay.
But I actually, so I suspect that the audience for positive content vastly outweighs the audience for negative content. And a problem that has happened is that film criticism on the internet has the reputation of just being a bunch of men in their mid 20s getting irrationally angry about Marvel movies. And because of that, a lot of people just either aren't interested in film criticism at all. They just don't seek out that kind of content,
Yeah.
or they listen to people that they like talk about it when the people that they like aren't necessarily educated on the topic. It's just like, some random person who's just giving their thoughts on a movie they saw. Because that fills the need much better. But
That's
in terms of,
possibly true, but I would say that I think that you're maybe overestimating things a little bit. From my experience of talking to normies about films, in my average everyday life, and this is obviously anecdotal, but just there's so many people that are just they're in for it for like the roller coaster. So what they care about are the films themselves, and I don't see, at least these people that I've talked to, really caring to look up extra stuff about movie criticism, like even
Well,
positive
okay,
or
so
negative.
I do not think that's true. So consider this for a second. Film in developed countries is a near universal interest. Almost everyone, we're talking 99.9% of people watch some number of films, and there is a large chunk of the population where this is one of, if not their primary hobby. This could be 5 to 10% of the population. We're talking about total addressable market of, hundreds of millions of people, an incredibly large addressable market. On YouTube, film is beaten by Minecraft by one game. In fact, film is dumpstered by Minecraft. I don't have exact numbers, but there are many Minecraft channels that are 5, 10 million, consistently putting out 50 million views a month sort of situation. Those film channels just don't fucking exist. The only film channels that like even scratch into the same surface are content farms like Watch Mojo. Like it,
Do you think there's a way that you could scratch into that
yeah,
market?
that's
or
what
make
I'm
a
fucking
way
doing.
in?
I'm in the middle of writing a
Okay,
marketing
I just
document.
wanted to make sure that you weren't going to go like total black pill.
No,
on this.
no,
Like, you
I
just
know my
can't do
entire
it,
life
but
right now is devoted to trying to fucking find the lost potential in film criticism on YouTube. That's literally how I spend every
Awesome.
fucking second of my day. I absolutely think it's possible. But like talking about normies really quick, the thing that I've noticed talking to normies is that normies tend to like at most things. And when they dislike things, they don't dislike them very strongly. You talk to people about seeing a Transformers movie or an Adam Sandler movie or whatever, and the reason those movies do well is because the average person enjoys them. And when you talk to people about movies they don't like, they aren't like, "Oh my god, it's fucking Marvel." They never have that reaction ever. It's always like, yeah, I mean, that wasn't really my thing, and they just move the fuck on with their day. Now, from an emotional perspective, there's this like the concept of loss aversion also applies to how people feel about lots of things. So if someone might make you feel really tense or really negative, their propensity to avoid you will be very high. So I think that's largely what's going on with the whole film thing on YouTube, is that a lot of people, I mean, especially women, but most men as well, don't want to hear someone get really fucking pissed off and angry and scream and throw stuff, while talking about a superhero movie, even if they didn't like it. A lot of the time, a lot of people don't want to hear that. They're more interested in positive feedback. And in particular, like if they have one or two experiences where they really enjoyed something and this person is taking a complete dump on it, that really, really turns people off. Like you can in a second lose a customer for life. They're never going to be interested in what you have to say. So like, I think that that's the most potentially the reason that positive film content has the most potential is because you aren't going to have that chilling effect of shitting on something that someone likes. Because I mean, like from my perspective, almost everything that comes out is bad. It's just a question of whether it's terrible or mid. Like the number of films that come out that to me are worth talking about in like a strongly positive light, you're talking about maybe 3 movies a year, something like that. If you include international films, which I don't see enough of, maybe you could get to 5 a year, right? Like there's just not that many good movies. Most stuff is bad. But having said that, the average person enjoys these bad movies. That's why they get made, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like it's an escape, even if it's not a great escape. You know, mid sometimes is where it's at.
Yeah. So like, I mean,
But it is kind of sad that we don't have those great films anymore. Like, do you feel like it's gotten less over time, or is it always been like there's only about 5 good films?
So when I was younger, I took that idea really seriously. There was a period between when I was like 18 to 21 where I probably spent an average of 8 hours a day every day watching movies. I was like literally trying to watch everything.
Yeah.
And I take lists pretty seriously, so I had all the stuff that I liked, all the stuff that I thought was high quality, and then at one point I sorted it by year. And in my particular list, there's very little before 1950 that I really react to, even the stuff that gets very, very heavily praised.
Yeah.
And on my list, it was the 70s and the 90s that were very, very clear standouts. Like there are years in the 70s and 90s where 15 to 20 good films came out and like 5 great films came out. Years which I don't think have an equal in the modern era. And what I felt was that in the early 2010s, somewhere around 2013 to 2016, film was so bad that I straight up stopped watching movies, which is, you know, kind of shocking if you know how big of a part of my life watching movies has been.
Yeah.
I definitely think that period was like trash. Like there was long periods of just nothing happening, and not just nothing happening in big blockbuster stuff, because I don't even watch that all that much. But even if you watch the stuff that was going into Cannes or Sundance or, you know, international stuff, there's just very, very little going on in those years. But
mostly,
kind of
mostly
attribute that to
I
like the
even
rise
just
in like
gave
quality
up on
television.
watching stuff almost entirely and was just reading books at that point.
yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. The rise of television, I'm not sure. I personally think that
It
like
just seems like the quality went up around the
the
same
quality,
time that like the movie quality went
the
down.
quality of
I
television
don't know.
definitely went up, but a lot of people, it's like the standard argument, I think, now to say that the quality of drama on television is better than film, and that's an embarrassing opinion. That's not even close to
Better,
true.
yeah.
It's better, but like television used to be
I think
really
you can
bad on
dive
average.
deeper in some ways.
No, yeah.
But I don't know if I'd say it's better. Just I think the length, like you can
It's-
explore some things.
It
deeper
is
than you could in, like, an hour
very
and a
rare
half,
that I find a
but-
television show that I will finish, and to be fair, it has gotten a lot better. You know, television, certainly the average level of quality is dramatically increased, and it's not just an outlier thing. It's not just the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. It's like even you know, sort of mid.
Well, there's
even
going to
mid
be
television
some
is better.
people who will go for quality, and there's a lot of people just go in with the market as it is and go for just pumping out content. Like a lot of
Yeah, but I mean, some people have a preference for I was specifically talking about like a lot of people would argue that television, like beat for beat, is higher quality than film, which is just not true. Like I don't see any argument for that over any period of time. Maybe the period of time where film was so fucking bad, but that isn't like, that's just kind of like an outlier situation. It's like film had a couple off years and television had a couple good shows.
Well, there is also the writer's
Fair
strike
enough.
originally. We have another one right now, but there
Well,
was
yeah,
the
but television
writer's
sucks.
strike, the rise of
I mean, television and film got hit equally
reality
by that.
TV sort of took a turn. Dramatically, I think, changed television content, like Survivor. Remember how big that was?
Well,
for a
so that's
while.
actually that's slightly a
yeah.
myth. People think that like reality television didn't start or get popular during the writer's strike. It
No.
exacerbated it, but
Yeah.
like the thing is the writer's strike probably hit television worse than it hit film, because like most television shows from that time period, there's just a dog shit season. Like Breaking Bad season 2 is way worse than any other season of Breaking Bad. It's not close. And then like there are shows like Heroes where the writer's strike damn near killed the show. Actually, did it kill the show?
It did.
Yeah, like it's season
I
2.
mean-
I think it did, but no, I don't know if
well, no, I
I'm
mean,
remembering that wrong.
no, let me rephrase that. It darn near killed the show, but no, it hobbled along for like a year or two later, something like that.
Okay, I think that just might be when I fell off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for most people, that's
Um,
when they fell off. No, it
Probably
definitely
fell
went
off
on
a
a
while
big
ago.
Parallax, but
sidetrack.
kind of
and it didn't
to
really
kind of
recover.
backtrack to like the whole like good faith thing. So you're mentioning that like you kind of look at films as like maybe there's only like 3 good ones in the U.S. per year, like 5 internationally. Do you think that that makes you like bad faith going into that, or the fact that you're like aware of this bias? Like, are you rating mid ones kind of higher, or
I just have very high aesthetic standards and different preferences from other people. So like to give you a couple examples, I get nothing out of So Bad It's Good. A lot of people just enjoy like bad
Hmm.
movies for the sake of it. I don't at all.
so you get nothing from the room?
Nothing.
Hmm.
Like I
Can you
nothing.
appreciate like how bad the
I
room is?
I
Like, that there's
appreciate
no
how
way they
bad
could
it
have
is,
made
but
that
I
worse
don't
if
get
they
any
tried?
I don't get any pleasure from it. It's not fun to watch a bad movie.
All right.
Yeah,
And
but
like
you like
That one just
cringe
seems like lightning in a
YouTube
bottle. Like
videos.
they couldn't have made it worse if they could.
I guess because
Well,
it's a different
Many
medium.
people try and it just doesn't come off.
I mean,
like that.
it's a
But
particular
I
type of
understand
emotional
that.
reaction
That's
that
respectable.
I mean, a lot of people have it. I just
For sure.
don't. And like my perspective on this is going to be way different than most people, because to most people, film is just something that you watch to escape every once in a while. For me, film is something that like I was obsessed with for like the 6 most important years of my life. Like, I mean, like it, and I had very specific goals. I wasn't just watching film just for shits and giggles. I was watching film to try and become a better screenwriter and try and get a better understanding of the medium. So like the only like to give
It
you
definitely changes your perspective. I will say that once I started paying attention to those kinds of things, wanting to, understand film better, what I considered good and what I considered bad definitely changed.
yeah, and like from my perspective, the only thing I care about is basically what can I steal from? Like what is doing something well? How can I break that down and understand what choices the film made that were effective? And like how much I care about a film is almost 100% proportional to how much I can learn about film from this thing. Like that's what I care about. So like
The tried and true method you look for and try to adapt it to your own processes.
well, it's like it's looking for the merits of the film, then trying to figure out like how does that stack up against other things? Because like, if you watch an action movie and it's like fine, it's like enjoyable enough, but it doesn't do anything particularly interesting that I haven't seen in a dozen other films, then I would never think about it again. And it doesn't mean that I would be necessarily motivated to go out and shit all over it. I mean, like, to be straight, the vast majority of films I just wouldn't finish because I don't need to. Like, I can tell people really don't like this take for some reason, but I can tell with like 95% certainty
think that would
that like whether or not I'm going to like something 5 minutes in. I can tell whether or not I'm going to like it.
damn.
No,
It is very, very rare.
there is
even,
something
like,
to
Up,
that. There
like-
definitely is something to that because there are certain promises made within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the film that are generally carried out throughout the film, and so you
there's setup
recognizing
and there's payoff. You want if some
What's
show
more-
or movie sets something up, you expect to get a payoff for that.
Well, it's more general than that. Like, movies aren't a series of random decisions. Like, you have a set of people. If you have a highly competent set of people who have made a great film, it's probably apparent immediately. And if you have a group of people who aren't very coordinated or don't know what the fuck they're doing, it's going to be apparent immediately. I mean, like, another comparable situation is that I have to do a lot of stuff where I go through music to try and find royalty-free music for background music. And all I need to do is click in the middle of the song 2 times. I click one place, let it play for a second, click to another place, let it play for a second. I can tell you with 98% certainty
Totally get
whether or
that.
not I want to use that piece of music. I mean, and I heard
Sure.
literally
Well, there's an emotion that you're
like
going
literally
for or
less than 1%.
something.
But
Like,
what I'm saying is that movies are the same thing because it's not a series of random decisions. It's all tied together. Like, you
I
can
don't know. I feel like there's some that like the
There-
first 5 minutes is completely
there are
different to, like, the rest
exceptions.
of the-
So Up is an exception because Up has
yeah,
Up
that's
is
why I was
basically
asking
like-
Up. I was trying to think of another one.
so I mean, I can tell you the
Is it
exceptions.
like a 7-minute.
I can tell
short,
you
like,
all
on
of the
phone?
exceptions that I can remember. So Up is an exception because basically Up is a film that starts with like an 8 to 10 minute sequence, something like, I don't remember exactly how long it was, but like a short sequence that is
Yeah, I see what
basically
you mean.
disconnected from the rest of the film in most ways.
Yeah.
And in that particular sequence on its own is one of the best pieces of filmmaking like in history, and the rest of the film does
For
not live
sure.
up.
It is so hard
Yeah.
to watch.
Um,
But yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
that
That's why I
people
was
who
like
gonna ask.
the
Like,
film
I don't
really
know.
just
Like,
like
I
the
feel like
first 8
there's a
minutes.
few.
There-
But you're right. You're right.
There-
Like,
there are-
I
there
could be
are
a big
exceptions, but,
fan,
like,
which is what I'm known for.
I mean, like what I'm trying to tell you
But,
is like if you really get to understand film as a medium, like when I saw No Country for Old Men for the first time, I knew it was a great film after like one scene. Like like the second or
Yeah.
third cut in the film, I was like, oh, it's going to be great. I was just
Yeah.
like certain, because you could, again, the level of competence on display, you can tell
Mhm.
it's going to be very
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah,
and if
actually,
the people who make the film are
actually,
incompetent, they
to
will make a mistake. Like you will notice something,
Yeah,
and it'll
yeah.
be like, oh, that was like a good filmmaker wouldn't do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
To boost what you're saying, we actually just watched Big Fish today, right? And I had the same kind of impression. Just a few minutes in, you could tell how intentional and well thought out, and just the high level of craft involved in making that movie, and it maintained throughout, um, in a way that it was very apparent compared to the average level of filmmaking today. That
The
is
sound
just
design
not
was
it's just
great.
absent
Comparison
from
to
Yeah, to give a counter example, there's only 2 times, I think. I don't even know if 2 times. 5 minutes in is a pretty extreme example. I mean, I feel that way after usually less than a minute.
Yeah.
But is it good
But
faith to do
No, I
that?
get what
And
you're
have
saying.
you
I think I was just being a
verified
dick
that?
by
Have you gone through like
bringing up
100
Let's
movies you've never seen before? Did that method? Then
recently, right?
pick a few.
Yeah, I mean, I did. Well, okay, first of all, it's not good faith or bad faith, because I don't make videos about this. This
Yeah,
is
I
just how I efficiently use my time. And yeah, I know it's accurate because I've got,
Fair
like
enough.
like I said, I spent years. I started doing
you
this when I
verified.
spent years. Yeah, because I
Okay.
mean, basically, what happens a lot of the time is I will go through and I just there. It'll be like, okay, this director has a good movie. I'll watch the rest of their movies. You know, these movies are recommended. I want to watch movies by this actor, and I'll have all these reasons I might include a movie, and I'll just download legally a very large number of movies, put them into a folder, get a randomizer, and just click the fucking button and let a movie start playing. And then like I have to determine for myself at what point am I going to tap out and go watch something else. Because if you just watch everything to the end, it's like it's such a colossal waste of your life. If I had watched all these movies to the end,
Yeah.
my life would be literally 5 years shorter. Like you can't watch everything. I have to have a
That
I have to have a
totally
sorting
makes
method.
sense.
So here's basically what happens: is I go through, and if something is like, usually I give it about 15-20 minutes, and if it's just not doing it, I'll tap out, and sometimes I tap out earlier than that, and then I will go revisit stuff when other people talk about it. So like, this is one of the exceptions I was going to tell you, is that Paul Thomas Anderson's film Magnolia, I tapped out of that several times because the first
Yeah,
like
I actually did.
the
too.
first like 20,
It's
30,
tough.
40 minutes of that movie is fucking rough. It is just it's difficult to get through for people who haven't seen it. Basically imagine that there's a film where imagine a film that has like 10 different protagonists. Each of them need their own setup that are independent of each other. And you just have like 10 character origin stories back to back with very little interaction between them, and not all that much in the way of traditional story development. You know, it's like
Okay,
the
so a lot of setup.
Mhm.
So you lose
Set up for
people
like 40
throughout the setup.
setup for like 45 fucking minutes, to the point where it's absurd.
Okay.
I tapped out of that movie in the first 45 minutes like 3 or 4 times, and then I met someone whose opinion I respected that said that it was his favorite film of all time. So it's like, okay, now I have to watch it to the end. I have to sit here and, you know, endure this entire thing. And I watched it to the end and I liked it, but I still feel the first 45 minutes of that movie is dog shit. Like, if people turn it off, I completely understand why.
Like Final Fantasy 13. A lot of people have criticism that it's a bad game just because of the setup in the beginning. So long, so grueling. And it supposedly gets better after 20 hours. Some people aren't going to go through that 20 hours.
Well, it's not like it's
Frank-
holistically bad because of that. But and
No.
again, this is one of the very rare exceptions. I mean, we're talking about less than a dozen exceptions in my entire life of watching movies that I would say are, you know, outliers to this.
And you would still criticize how it starts off. even in
100%.
that-
100%. It starts off terrible. And to be fair, I'm pretty sure Paul Thomas Anderson agrees with that now. I'm pretty sure he's expressed a lot of regrets about Magnolia in particular.
So is there any directors or filmmakers, should I say, who sort of had at least a few good films and this method would not apply to? I'm curious about this since you're going
What do
on.
you mean the method wouldn't apply to?
Like do you like Kevin Smith? Some people, you probably don't like Kevin Smith given
No, but
I
he's
used
not
to-
talking about specific filmmaking techniques. He's talking more about like the craft of the movie
Like
isn't
criticism.
doesn't shine through in that first.
I mean, if you saw
10
Clerks,
minutes,
I
what,
would
what,
not
I, what I'm
say-
saying, what I'm saying is that like the choices that are made in a film are not independent. It's not
Yeah.
like it's
For
not like
sure.
you make a
I-
choice and then you make a choice and then you make a choice and then you make a choice. It's much more like there is a
Yeah.
holistic interweaved nested web of stuff. And it's like if they introduce a character and the character isn't interesting, you just fucked up your first scene, which is the second most important scene in your film. A competent filmmaker is never going to fuck that scene up ever. It will never happen. Like sometimes you would have something like the movie is slightly boring on purpose in a way that will be recontextualized later. There is stuff like that, but it's still not going to be like outwardly bad. And like the choices that end up making a film great are apparent. Like the more familiar you become with film as a medium, they should become apparent to you pretty quickly. It's not like a film is just a sequence of scenes and it's like, oh, that was a good scene. Oh, that was a terrible scene. Oh, that was a good scene. Basically never happens. If you
Yeah.
see a competent film,
I get what you're saying.
every scene will be good and some of them will be exceptional. And if
Yeah.
you watch a
Yeah, we all
mediocre
do
film,
that. I mean, like,
there will be like,
yeah, if you're watching a B movie, you would know like the second it starts.
exactly,
Like, in
like
that first scene, like, oh, this is a B
the
movie.
overall quality of a thing is very accurately reflected in every single individual component of the thing, whether it's music or films
And
or
that makes
anything.
sense.
And like I understand that people don't like I understand why people don't like something being criticized if you haven't finished it. And I don't do that, although to be honest, it's just for optical reasons. I think I absolutely am entitled to. If I watch the first 20 minutes
No,
of a
yeah.
movie and it's dog shit, I actually do think I
I think
should
you
be
could say why it doesn't hook you.
yeah, and like
Yeah,
I
um,
wouldn't do that just because it looks
as long as you
bad.
can add a caveat, I think it's fine because like maybe this thing gets amazing later, but
Yeah, it doesn't
it's so
pull
bad
people
now that I don't have faith that that warrants that kind of thing. And
Yeah, typically
like how would you describe Steel? It was Steel Magnolias, right?
I haven't seen that.
Just
no, sorry.
Magnolia.
What was the film you said?
Oh,
I thought you said
Magnolia.
that.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh, okay, yeah. And so, how would you describe like your first 45-minute? Like, how would you create a pattern that you could like account for that without having seen it? Like,
Well,
say like some throwaway line that says, well, maybe something like this will happen again, but I just don't see it happening.
Well, I mean, you're comparing it to tons of other stuff, like all the other movies you've seen, which in my case is a very large number. And like, I mean, you're just
Yeah.
basically, I mean, it's like I can tell what this scene is for. How well is the scene is accomplishing that relative to other films? And like most of the exceptions that I would cite are going to be exceptions where like I never change my opinion about the first 10 minutes of the movie. The first 10 minutes is dog shit. It's just that the movie later does something which changes my opinion in some way. Like this is actually pretty common with shitty but entertaining films. So like The Proposal is a pretty bad romance movie. The whole premise is just dumb as fuck. And the first 10 minutes is mostly dealing with like mostly setting up the premise, and it's bad because the premise of the movie is bad. If you watch the entire movie, there is a lot of stuff to enjoy almost exclusively because of Ryan Reynolds. And
Yeah.
like that wouldn't be apparent from the first 10 minutes. But it doesn't recontextualize a mediocre to bad movie into being a good movie. It's like it is a mediocre to bad movie that has good things I can say about it, right? Like I can't think of a single
Yeah.
example where I watched 20 minutes of a film and I was like, this is dog shit. And then I finished the film and I was like, this is brilliant. Literally never happened. Like not a single time.
Well, okay,
Well, and I
but
think I
like
took
what
us
I'm
down
asking
this
is
road
like
on accident.
how could you watch like 20 minutes of a film and recognize that something like that might be in the film, but you're not going to stick around to find out? What would that
I
like?
don't
or
think
would you
he's saying
just-
like
or would you
he
just
would.
simply
It's just
Well, there's-
strongly
is this
state-
worth
Well,
my
there's
time?
no, I mean, you're asking for like a foolproof way to make sure you're not missing out on something. There isn't any way. But like if I skip 1,000 films and miss out on 10 that get better, fine. That's perfectly fine. That is a very, very good use of my time.
you just don't talk about those
Does seem like a
those
trade-off.
films, and that
Yeah, and
would
I
be
typically
fair.
Well,
like-
like
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I sent us down this road.
no,
I
no, no,
didn't
no.
mean
It
to
links
because
back up
I
to good
misinterpreted
faith.
what you were
It does.
saying that this
At
was
least
just
that's what I'm
your
trying to do.
personal choice. Yeah. But I thought that you were saying like I can tell within 5 minutes whether it's a good or bad film, and I could tell you that like I essentially thought that you'd be giving criticism to it, but instead you're just
I
saying like,
can't.
is it
Well,
worth
the
my
thing
time
is,
of
I'm
watching? I know within 5 minutes whether I
it's
want to.
it's more of a me not wasting my own time thing, and like I am extremely familiar with my own preferences. I wouldn't be comfortable saying who
Yeah.
would like or dislike a film by watching the first 10-20 minutes, because like
And it feels like if you only watch like 5 minutes of it, and you're going to give a full review of like why this is like
I
horrible.
wouldn't do that
It
just
feels like
because
that might
it just
be
looks terrible.
why somebody could say it's bad faith, but it doesn't sound like that's what you're doing. I just misinterpreted that at first. I thought that's where you were going with like within 5 minutes
If
you
I
can
was
tell if something's going to be
if I was
good enough to criticize, but instead it was like good enough to watch.
if I was
you-
talking to if I was
I-
talking to someone at a party and I saw a movie and the first 5 minutes was like unrepentant dog shit, I would
Yeah.
be perfectly comfortable saying this is a bad movie. Like not as a personal opinion, like as a general statement. Like there's no way that the movie is able to
For sure.
recover from this. But I wouldn't say it on
For sure,
YouTube.
and I think we all do that, especially with like TV shows and shit.
Yeah.
You know, like
Time
oh, this is
saving
horrible.
management.
This isn't worth it.
Yeah, like
And
I I think it's a bad faith defense people will often make is like, oh well, you can't criticize this TV show unless you finish it, or like this is something that happens a lot in politics. You can't criticize my political beliefs unless you read fucking Marx for 6 months, and it's like
Yeah.
it's just not reasonable. Like you can't
Yeah,
you can't expect someone to read every fucking thing to be able to engage with an idea. There is a point where criticism is reasonable without having seen the entire thing.
Well,
Um,
okay. Well, but here's the thing: is that speaking to my last stream on Sargon, he has critiques of liberalism that I feel are completely and totally inaccurate, and to the point where I wonder how much he's actually read and how much he's basing it off of memory or supplementary material, like not directly relating to the original works themselves. And so I feel like if he read the things and specifically like we went over them together, I could prove how his critiques are inaccurate and systemically bad faith, if not actually bad faith.
So there's a different threshold for different things. So just to be clear, if I'm going to discuss a film on YouTube, I'm always going to watch the entire thing. I don't think it's not a good idea to not do that. Personally, like my opinion is almost certainly not going to be changed by watching the whole thing. I can make up my mind after 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But if I'm going to discuss something in public for a film is like 2-3 hours. Like you just finish it. If you want to talk about it. A television show, I don't think that's reasonable. Television shows are already at a point where the way I value my time, it's very rare that I finish a television show. Like I saw the season 1 of The Boys and like mostly enjoyed it, and I just don't really have an interest to watch the rest of it, even though I wouldn't be super critical of it. It's just it's a lot of fucking time. So the TV show, I think it's reasonable to criticize it if you've seen like half of the first season or something like that.
Okay.
Like if you've given it a good try. And when you're talking about politics, like I mean, it would depend on whether you're familiar with the central ideas about the thing. Like if you're going to critique Marx, you need to understand the labor theory of value, and like you need to have a good grasp on his basic ideas. You don't have to fucking read all 3 volumes of Capital. But if you don't understand what Marxism is, then yeah, you're putting on the fucking clown suit. And like that's probably, I mean, that's what you're describing. I have no fucking interest in reading about, John Rawls or whatever the fuck, and the
liberalism.
yeah,
Not
philosophical
a big
foundations of
guy.
liberalism.
Yeah.
I just don't care about politics. But like
That's fine. That's fine.
if he's criticizing liberalism and misunderstanding like the core texts and the core ideas, then yeah, he's fucked up. Like he doesn't need to go and read, he doesn't need to go and find the top 10 liberal philosophers and read their 5 most important books, because that would take weeks. It's not a reasonable request. But like if you enter into that conversation and you fuck up the basic stuff, then yeah, you have fucked up. So there's a different threshold for different conversations.
And something I've actually noticed is when a company fucks up a few times, sometimes it seems like they can't come back from it. And generally, I would say it sort of is a black hole. They're sort of stuck going with that. But like with Bethesda and Disney, even when they do something good, some people online, at least, I don't know about it in general public, but online will sort of read the bad things about it. I've seen that. Like people were
That's
reluctant
optics.
yeah, that is optics, but it's sort of you can't say that Disney or X company, because they fucked up here, and here, if they do something good and correct sort of what they did in the past, optically
People-
you can't go forward with it.
People react much more strongly to negative stimuli than positive stimuli. So if something
Yes.
makes someone
Great-
feel
great
badly,
articles.
it's going to be difficult to get over that if something makes someone feel badly. So like if a corporation upsets someone, they're probably just going to stay upset and look for reasons to be upset at that thing for like a while.
And
that's
it's
just-
going to probably add up. More people will convince more people that people did this thing to upset people. It'll just a track
like,
record.
This is something I almost made a second channel video about. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but like the more I think about being a public figure and the more I look at what other people are doing, the more like all of the PR optics shit makes complete fucking sense to me. And it's not because people are being fake necessarily. It's because the audience can be so unreasonably reactive to fucking nothing. And like you just you have to be careful to not set people off. The consequences for a minor fuck up can be catastrophic. In a way, like as a public figure, if like you have a career on YouTube that's dependent on your reputation, a lot of people are ended by an out of context clip, and they're fucking done. That's the end. Like the fact that can happen, that your words can be misrepresented and people will just believe it, and that's the fucking end of you. You know, it's like the Black Swan thing. Like you have to be constantly on your guard, and it's not because you're trying to be a fake version of yourself. I personally think that almost all online figures are probably basically themselves, just with the additional layer of trying to make sure they don't do anything that's going to end their fucking career. And what people don't understand is just how many things are totally reasonable.
Well, with the caveat of Hassan, which I feel like he doesn't have that he makes his
audience doesn't care about actually his content.
but like him trying
Probably
to
being
be
unfair,
like
but-
he makes known that he is trying to not fuck up. He'll like put that out. He'll say, well, I want to play Hogwarts Legacy, but I know that people won't let me, so I'm just not going to. Or like, I don't want to say, what's that? Don't say the N-word.
I'll call people
You
crackers.
can say the N-word privately, but just don't say it publicly because it's not okay for people to know that. And it's like, but you're saying it.
Well, the thing is, you have to
front
be
of everyone.
Well, you need to
when he says that, like I really don't feel like he has that layer that you're talking about.
Well, he does if you understand the audience that he's talking to.
Yeah,
like
different
they're
audiences.
like if you're a liberal person who is like a social democrat or a centrist or something, and like you like capitalism, then you don't understand how different the perspective of commies is. And like Hassan is basically trying to appeal to commies and tankies. So like there are lots of things that sound totally insane to me, but sound completely reasonable to them. And a lot of the stuff Hassan says falls under that heading. Like a lot of commies will straight up say like, it's fine to be hypocritical. It straight up doesn't matter. Like we are fine with our people being hypocritical as long as what they're doing advances the goal of whatever.
But
so
does
like
he advance it?
And these
I am aware of that concept, not that one specifically, but the concept of just like two world views being and personalities and whatnot being so divergent that looking at the other looks crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, so like what Hassan said is playing like what you just said he said plays in perfectly with the worldview, because like a lot of these people basically believe that projecting power is what matters. So like it doesn't matter if you actually are a commie. All that matters is that you act like a commie, that you that you publicly say that these ideas are good. Whether or not you live them is completely irrelevant. This is a very, very common perspective.
Do you think that they look at bad faith like a different way? Because isn't that what most of us would call like bad faith if you don't actually
they have some otherworldly definition of bad faith when a lot of these people use it. They just mean something completely different because they're fine with bad faith. I mean, they're openly fine with it. Like if you're doing something that is seen to advance the cause of like, propagating communism, then they're fine with it. They don't care if you lie. They don't care whatever. Like Hassan is the most obviously not a socialist person. If you look at any of his behavior, I mean, his entire empire is based on basically stealing other people's content in a way that's completely indefensible. Not even like stealing corpo content. It would be one thing. I would at least understand from his audience's point of view if he was watching fucking Kitchen Hell or whatever.
Yeah. Master
But like,
Chef or
yeah, but
whatever.
he's stealing videos from people that are, I mean, people like me, people that are just random fucking people trying to like make a living online, which is not an easy thing to do. Completely indefensible from his point of view, but I mean, his audience doesn't care because it's not about what he actually does. It's about like representing strength and representing the perspective and stuff. So I mean, that makes perfect sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, and like what was it? There was the T-shirt debacle. I don't know if you heard about that. Where he
No, I haven't caught it. I haven't assumed that I don't know anything Hassan has done for the last like year and a half.
No,
I wish I didn't know what he did.
He had bought a T-shirt from some source, but that source didn't have the rights to the art, and so the artist had noticed this and said, "Oh, hey, I made that." Oh gosh, I forget the exact interaction.
Well,
but basically,
remember when he
came away
shitted on
with
a
like,
trans
"Oh, I already
person?
paid for this
That
art.
should
I don't
not be
care
an
that
optical
it
thing.
was stolen." from you."
Hassan has made so many errors, like the
Well,
trans-
Hassan is a sloppy bitch. Like the
Okay.
shitting on the trans person thing is a huge optical L. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just a sloppy person. His best technique for avoiding controversy has been to just not do things that he's bad at. That's why he stopped debating, which is very smart in his part because he can't hold his own.
He lost to the TikTok conservative guy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, like, online debates are way more complicated than people realize. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can sympathize.
It's all right.
I'm probably worse at online debates than fucking Hassan is. It's a not an easy
a
thing to
skill.
do.
No, yeah. I mean,
I think you've held your own in a few of those, man.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's not a skill that I care to cultivate.
No,
Yeah, like I could
it's
probably
a
Fair enough.
difficult.
I'm totally
a difficult thing.
because
I probably
I've
could have
had
defended Barbie better. Sorry.
I've-
Well, to be fair,
Yeah.
that I was not. That was
you
not
weren't
a.
trying. You were
That was
playing
not
the-
that was not an earnest attempt to make Barbie look good. That was making content, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
You have to you have to keep that in
Um,
mind.
But yeah, I've
One
I've
point.
been in debates with people, and they just seem to take the worst interpretation of what you're saying, and you're like, and you spend forever like crafting an argument and addressing other people's points, just for them to walk away with something you never said.
Oh, so I have the perfect. I can make your life so much better. I'm going to save you so much headache. You know what I just said about movies where you spend 5 minutes and you see the warning signs and you tap out? You have to do that with people online because there are so many unreasonable people online. There's nothing you can get out of the conversation. There's no winning. You can prove them wrong. They can make claims that are so factually wrong. You can link a Wikipedia article that will holistically prove everything they said is the exact opposite. God could fucking come down from heaven and tell them they're wrong, and they will never admit it. Like the only thing you can do is not talk to these people. Like that, straight up, that is the only thing you can do. And like, if you really enjoy the blood sports of like, making somebody look stupid on the internet, that I guess have your fun. But like, if what you're interested in is a good faith, constructive conversation, the only thing, like, you just need to identify people that are being dickheads and just not talk to them. That's the only way you can actually manage this.
It's true.
Yeah, but can you honestly say you gave it a try? Be like, no, I didn't give it a try. I felt this way about this and didn't want to engage. It's just comes off as
well.
bad.
You shouldn't give it a try. I mean,
Well,
like,
sometimes when you
that's
only
his point,
get
is that some people aren't
criticism,
worth
if
it.
you only get criticism, crappy criticism, and someone comes along, you point out one thing that they said wrong, and they had 5 good points. You brought this up earlier, I think someone did. But yeah, you just have to attack the weakest argument, and that would be bad faith, especially if you were wrong about the 5 other things, or sort of.
Well, it's like, well, okay, it's sort of what I was saying earlier. Like, there are, if you become cultivated to the idea of having a political discussion, you notice signs very, very quickly. So the same thing, like if you give 3 arguments and they ignore 2 of them and only talk about the one they perceive to be worst, and then they give a bad takedown of your argument and pretend that they won the conversation, there's no winning with that person. Like, you're not going to talk them into being reasonable. You just notice like 6 red flags over the course of 2 minutes. They're like, you're wandering into a minefield of red flags. Like, if you're able to identify that and you continue the conversation, it's your own fault. Like, you this is a waste of your time and you're doing it anyway. And the thing is, sort of the part of the perspective you're repping is that like other people owe you their time and owe you their respect and owe you having the conversation. And if you dip out of it, that there's something wrong with them. No, fuck that. Absolutely fuck that. Like so many people online are not worth having a contentious discussion with, and to be honest, it's most of them, and it's usually obvious very quickly. And like the idea that
Well,
like
I'm sure people have dismissed you based off of that conversations with you.
I did the thing that you're saying people should do. I released a contentious video and then sat on the internet for 2 months, literally arguing with every single fucking person, no matter how stupid they were, no matter how few views they had, even if it was people on Twitter. I argued with every single motherfucker about that Vosh video.
Okay.
Literally the entire internet. No one changed their mind. No one
Okay,
changed
they
their
either
fucking mind.
agreed
It was
with
a
you or
complete-
disagreed with
it was
you.
a
Like
complete
I
fucking
saw
waste of
you
my time.
Sunday. I saw you go on Sunday stream. That was
Well,
quite interesting, but I don't remember much of it.
Wait, did
I
I go on
agree.
Sunday
You
stream?
did that. You talked to everyone with that Bosch video.
I,
You're right.
I went on like 30 different streams. I argued in the comment section with people. I'm telling you, I know from experience, it is a waste of fucking time. The vast majority of people, we're talking 80% of them who have a strong opinion about something on the internet, have no interest in changing their mind. You can completely disprove them, and they will like remember I was talking about like you could just like link to Wikipedia. There are people in my comments section that would be like, why didn't you bring this up? And I would link them a timestamp to me bringing it up and talking about it. And they just bring up another argument. They have no, like,
Yeah.
you need to,
what
this
was
is
it, that's how they describe like Trump, is that like, he goes through the list every time, and then by the time you get to the end of the list, and you've knocked down every single thing, he just brings up the first thing on the list again.
yeah, this is a mistake that a lot of people make. And the basic mistake is like, okay, well, I know that I'm a reasonable person and a lot of my friends are reasonable people, and we can have a very productive discussion. So all these people on the internet, they must also be reasonable. Not true. Not true. Like you need to really pick your battles with who you're going to like spend time engaging with, because there are so many people that are just actively looking to waste your fucking time. And part of the problem is this isn't necessarily like a black pill humanity sucks thing, because the thing is, the people who are the most obnoxious and who are the most like aggravating and who are the most interested in wasting your time, those people are the most active online. Like
They
the
don't have
kind of
anything better to do. So.
yeah, the kind of like the obnoxious pedants who just want to argue about definitions, the people with really bad political takes that like will deny genocides and shit like that. There's like so many different breeds of these obnoxious morons that like want to drag you into some just soul crushing waste of 3 hours, and then they just outlast you. They have some miraculous thing where they just will never back down, will never change their mind, and they'll never fucking stop talking. So the only thing you like, at some point you have to walk away, and they will always say at that point, oh, well, you lost the conversation. You couldn't engage with my points. There's no winning. Like there's no winning. So like when you see like 3 red flags in a row, just tap out, just talk to someone else. Like that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah,
Or shut them down. Like if it's your conversation, just shut those people down. Like how would you handle that? Like
I'd ban them. I'd immediately ban them.
Using the authority of the system to just ban people. I can't necessarily disagree that you shouldn't engage with the people you really think are acting in bad faith. But there is a sort of line between good faith and just misinformed. And generally, let me throw it over to Gray because he has great experience trying to get through. And I think, Gray, you and Patrick has just given up on that. He had 2 debates with these guys and nothing's getting through. Would you say this is your experience with both Bob, Organized Chaos, and his little buddy, CCP?
I think definitely they weren't going into it as a conversation. They were both definitely kind of debate brained. I don't know. I think you can have a conversation with somebody, but it is like a 2-way street. Like you can't force that to happen. So if somebody's not coming to the table, like actually willing to talk, I don't know, then I think it is essentially a fruitless effort. But if you're doing it performatively, like, yeah, you might be able to sway some of his audience. You can definitely, sway your own audience. I guess it just depends what you're actually trying to do.
Yeah, most people online
went into
trying to
those-
grow their online presence probably has that mindset. They can do no wrong. Their opinions are no wrong, as Parallax was bringing up. So they're just going to poke holes.
And that's, I don't know, maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, but like the show that I was doing when I went in there, like my show is called I Could Be Wrong. Like I could be wrong. I would like to understand their point of view. Here's my point of view. I'm going to lay it all out there. Why am I wrong? I don't
having
know.
heard that, let me stop you for a second and make a prediction.
Yeah.
Okay, 90%
Yes.
of the people that you talk to refuse to concede anything, and because you're honest and reasonable, you concede a couple of things. So it looks a lot of times like it looks like you lost the conversation to people that are fucking insane. Has that been your experience?
I think
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely to both Bob's and Ed's audience. That is what it
Yes,
looks like.
yes, exactly.
There were a lot of people who could see through it, but I don't know if, relative to how many people watched it and how many people commented, I don't know. But, I met a lot of cool people from that conversation. I think they could see what I was
Because a lot
trying
of
to do,
people
so.
agree with your criticisms. Hell, Frags is probably the king of not knowing when to shut his mouth. He's probably put more of an eye on Organized Chaos than anyone else with his video series. And
Well,
that's
but it was good
something-
content for him,
For
though.
sure.
good content
Well,
for
that's a-
him.
That's the thing. This is what people got to understand about online debates. A lot of people, like, whether or not debates have any merit whatsoever depends on how you look at them. If you just see it as good fun, if like you want to walk into a shit show and watch two people get mad and scream at each other and understand that it's not like a serious thing, then that's what it actually is. Like people that are invested are not going to change their mind. You could like here's something I would ask people to do. If you're listening to this and you think you disagree with me, take the opinion where you have the most expertise, something where you are very, very well informed. Go find a debate on the internet where someone is just objectively wrong, is just saying the dumbest fucking shit in the entire fucking world, and then go read their comment section. And you will agree with me, because it is so rare for someone to fuck up badly enough that their own audience will disagree with them, regardless of how insane what they're saying is. And the reason is because most people can't track these arguments. Like, online debates are not a good method of communicating information. So you have to actually be, pretty on the ball to even figure out what the hell is going on in the conversation. What the vast majority of people do is they just default to taking the side of the person that they like. And it is the only time when that changes at a large level is when someone fails in a debate so badly, they make their own supporters look stupid. That is the only time someone's own audience will turn against them, is if they feel like they look stupid by comparison for liking this person. That is like, this is something Vosh said that I straight up agree with.
Opposition supporters. That's definitely a bad faith tactic. Just make them feel like you'll be mocked.
It's just people feel stupid by association. If somebody like feels like they really like you and they're on your side, and then you completely fucking fail to defend the point of view, and you make people who hold that stance look stupid, then that's one of the few examples where someone's own audience will turn against them. And I could name names, but I'm not going to. But it has happened a couple times. But for the most part, if somebody just follows like the bare minimum requirements of not looking like a complete moron, and they just like repeat the talking points, the audience will seal clap, like very nearly 100% of the time, no matter how wrong the point of view is.
For sure.
So looking for the truth of the actual criticism, you're saying that doesn't matter in the public sphere like YouTube and Twitter. It's all about just repeating your talking points and getting through it and not conceding on anything.
The vast majority of people are not interested in the impartial truth. They have a perspective and they want to hear someone repeat that perspective. And the vast majority of content creators get to where they are by filling a need the audience has like that. Whether it's a political need that they're representing a political position, or whether it's a media take that they're representing, that Marvel's good or Marvel's bad or something like that. The vast majority of content creators exist at the level that they exist at because they satiate an audience desire for a particular perspective. And if you're going to change someone's mind, the only real two ways that that's going to happen in like an online debate format is, number one, if they don't have a strong opinion. If someone doesn't have a strong opinion about something, they actually will engage in a way that most people won't. If they aren't parasocially connected to one of the two people and they don't understand the topic, then they actually will engage with the conversation. And that can be like 20% of the audience maybe, but it's like never everyone. And the other way is if someone loses the conversation so bad they make their own followers look stupid. I mean, debate on the internet is just not a means of approaching the truth. And like, if you want to have conversations about the truth, then you should not have internet debates. You should have like conversations with someone where things are respectful and you're taking each other seriously.
Yeah,
and like,
try
if you
to come to an understanding of the other person's
that's kind of-
position and push back on it, necessarily be like, okay, I can understand why you come to this conclusion, but I don't agree with you, and just pointing out things sort of in a good faith manner. Don't dismiss them outright, their perspective, but try to sort of guide them, make them seem like using their own sort of perspective and guide them towards a greater understanding of a different perspective. Is so more of a discussion than a debate. Debates, I agree, will almost never end up changing someone's mind, except for maybe their audience's mind.
Yeah, debates are a spectacle. It's not
Yeah.
for the truth. It's a show.
Yeah.
And like the only people who strongly disagree with that are either people who do debates or people who enjoy debates because they want to think it's more serious than it is. But it's just not. I mean, like the vast majority of the time, people can't even track the arguments. It's most things that you would want to argue about are too complicated. I mean, like I've had situations where I've seen like a film, for example, like 4 or 5 times, and I watched it right before going on, and then I'll forget details of the movie while we're in the middle of a conversation. It's like, what the fuck do you do about that? I mean, it's just natural. You're not going to have perfect information. And if your goal is to quote unquote win a debate, then you do that by making the other person look stupid. And there's a lot of ways to do that. That
We
are
can't
very, very,
highlight all of them.
they're very, very effective. But if you're like, if what you want to do is win a debate, being correct has nothing to do with it. Is like kind of the point I want to get at. Like you want to find subtle and manipulative ways to make yourself look smart and your opponent look stupid, and that has nothing to do with who's correct. That's why you can see people who can represent the most rancid points of view imaginable, and you can watch it and be like, man, they're so wrong, but they're winning the conversation. And that's a pretty frequent thing. And that's like what online debate. And I tell you this as someone who could have been an online debate person. I mean, like I did this some. I mean, I had a lot of connections. I mean, at the very least, I would have been able to go on every debate show and pretty much every stream in the Twitch political space at the time. I mean, I had very, very good connections. So like, I could have been one of these people. I chose not to because it's just stupid. I mean, I dipped my toe in the water and I was like, man, that water is fucked up. I'm going to do something else with my life. Fuck this. But yeah, I mean, it's just not serious. It's entertainment.
Yeah, it is entertainment. Is Gray coming? Are you coming to that point of view? Is this why you're shifting in your content, Gray, somewhat, and making your connections?
I think I've just shifted what I'm expecting from somebody else. So like we're not to spoil anything, but we are trying to reach out to the group again to try and get a conversation, but I don't think it's going to happen. But we want to at least try and hold ourselves to a better standard than they would. We know that they wouldn't like reach out to us for comment, but you know, we figure if we're going to give our perspective, it might be good to get theirs as well. But yeah, I don't know. It really depends on what the whole like idea behind the debate is. I think there definitely is reason to debate, but
or
I
even
don't know. It
discussion.
kinda
I
depends who
think
you're debating and
sometimes
what.
just taking it back and like let's just have a discussion, not even debate these issues. Just
For
come to
sure. And that's
understand.
where I am more focused, for sure. Not like necessarily a debate, but I don't know. There is reason for debate. Like, I definitely do enjoy the spectacle of it, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna like solve the world's problems.
Or even
Usually it's
change
rhetorical
anyone's
tricks
mind.
and
Like you've talked to some of the people in the
yeah,
audience, you've
fair
actually
enough.
convinced them, but you've done a good job of inviting in some of the fans and talking to them. I doubt what your experience is like with that. Another reason to invite you on this. I mean, you've had conversations, at least in chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that's kind of where you understand each other. Like if you're willing to kind of listen and understand, I think you know, it goes back to kind of Sitch's law, which is kind of just, you know, the issue. It's usually definitions, and you're just using different definitions. So
Orlac
you know,
probably hates that.
I just hate it when
term.
yeah, I'm sure there is an actual term for it, but that's kind of where I was first introduced to. Well, I mean, I guess we're all familiar with the concept
it's
of, you know, like
equivocation.
we're just using different definitions. But exactly. But I don't know. It feels like these internet debates are, I don't know. That's all they are, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we could get past that. Like a lot of this whole like CRT thing that was big for like the last, I don't know, 2 years or something. All that was just like a difference in definitions. I don't know. I wish both sides could just kind of
And they're doing that with
actually
the term
discuss the
woke
issue
now.
instead of just
Well,
yes. I feel
everyone
like that's
everyone
kind
does it
of
with everything. That's the thing. Both
Yeah.
political sides complain about it, but both sides do it.
It
Like
has to
the
be important
oh, I'm
enough
not
to
saying it's
fight
just
over
one
the
side.
definition, though. I would say it has to be important enough of an issue to fight over the definition. When it becomes an important topic,
well, this is
like
okay.
Years ago, they wouldn't have argued over the definition of woke, but now why it's
That's
becoming
because-
a big issue?
That's because they didn't understand the effectiveness of the political tactic. So like what I'm saying is that like people engage, like public debates are entertainment spectacles and struggles of power and nothing else. It has nothing to do with figuring out who's correct. People are not going into debates looking to change their mind. Their audience is not going into debates looking to change their mind. That simply is not the case. And if you take that premise to be true, well, what follows naturally? Like, well, if how do I go into a debate and win if I'm wrong, which is very frequently going to be the case, regardless of the political affiliations of the person going in, because the content creator is a representative of their audience, and their audience is going to be wrong about a lot of stuff because groups of people are just dumb, like very frequently dumb about very many things. It's just
you're not going to be right on
exactly
everything.
So like, what do you do if your audience is dumb and wrong about something, but you have to argue about it? Well, you have a number of options. Number one, you can just ignore it. If you just avoid or downplay the things that your audience is wrong about, that's one way to avoid the problem. But another way is just to argue about definitions. It doesn't even matter what the issue is. It's like a catch-all term. You can always, in every circumstance, oh well, let's just change what groomer means. Let's so we can call our political opponents groomers. Let's just change what the word racist means so that we can justify the idea.
And I wasn't trying to say like one side was doing. I was trying to say like it just seems like
I wasn't implying that, but it is because I mean, for obvious reasons, because it's a very, very effective way to serve what your audience wants without having to be correct, and it works for everything. It's like a cure-all. It's literally like fucking snake oil, but it works. Like it actually cures everything. It's the one-stop solution to every political debate, as long as your audience is not paying attention, which they never are. So like that's why you see this everywhere, and it's not going to go away. The reason this didn't used to happen as much is because it was not clear how effective of a political tactic it was. Because I remember the political environment going back to like the 90s and 80s. This did not happen very much. But it like the first people to really employ it were lefties, and now the right's doing it too because it's effective. They can't, like, again, these are power struggles. They're not serious attempts to find the best policy. They're just power struggles. And when you see that your opponent is doing something that is effective, you need to do the same thing or you just lose. So now everyone is going to do it, and it's never going to go away. Probably, like, this is going to be the fucking thing till the end of time. You just have these obnoxious fucking conversations where people scream at each other, and they're not even speaking the same language. It's like actual.
Well, I don't even know if that's necessarily true. I don't know if you're familiar with the Super Mega and Chud Logic involvement in that. He sort of pushed that through to sort of break through the noise, and it.
Well, that wasn't.
But he has to have his influence first.
That wasn't a semantic issue. That was like, okay, first of all, the reason the Super Mega should like actually reversed is because the people making the allegations are the dumbest fucking people in the world, and they literally had conversations where they're like, we're gonna do a conspiracy, we're gonna get together, and we're gonna try and figure out how to fuck these people, and then like that got leaked. So like, yeah, if you're that fucking
there's no way that could ever be leaked.
If you're that fucking stupid, then yeah, like it's gonna reverse. But that's not like a. That's not a semantic argument.
Okay. You're talking about just semantics. When you actually present facts, sometimes people reject facts, as you brought up earlier. You can link them that article, and they'll just reject it and not see it.
Well, that's the thing. Is like it in the kind of conversation I was proposing, where it's not a debate, it's just conversation. You're cooperating with each other. Like you have to accept and work within their definitions and come to a mutual understanding. And if you do that, then you can actually you can actually make headway. You can actually have a good conversation. However, like that's just not what happens in debates. In debates, people have no incentive to cooperate. So they'll fight you on everything. And that's like what happens in political arguments. People will fight over definitions for the entire fucking conversation, because why would they ever concede anything to you? Why would they ever allow you to establish this shit and allow you to represent a perspective? They can just argue. They can use arguments to fucking what's it called, the stalling thing in the Senate, filibuster. They can just filibuster. Yeah, they can just filibuster the whole conversation, and then they win by default because they never even allowed you to make your point. Like, I mean, obviously they're going to do that.
So there is a good point to bring in facts, and there is a good point to bringing facts into this discussion and pointing out when people are factually incorrect in even these media discussions, which why we brought into other stuff. It really comes back to more fact. for good faith, you have to be honest about the facts and sort of equivocating a whole bunch of other facts, trying to twist the narrative. How do you sort of shut that down? I guess to be in a good faith manner, like saying you're just understanding this wrong, these facts wrong. Like
I
there's
mean,
a lot of
I would just when I see someone doing that, I would just stop talking to them and do something else with my time. But like, I mean, if you really want
But
to,
if
I mean,
you
straight up,
learn
that's
if
the
it's-
correct thing to do. But like, if you
Well-
want to waste your time, you can sit there and try and walk them through it and have like a really unpleasant conversation. Like, I would say that if you're gonna try and untangle that with somebody, you should probably do it through texts. It's voice conversations. It's very difficult to lead someone along a garden path of realizing they're incorrect about anything.
Okay.
Through text,
Yeah.
it's easier. So like, if you're talking to someone in Discord, don't talk about this shit in VC. Talk about it in a fucking channel, and then maybe you can make some headway. And there are people where you can like change their mind and stuff. It's just really difficult and unpleasant, and generally speaking, a waste of time.
Yeah, a lot of times people aren't actually going to listen to you; they're just waiting to speak. So
Mhm.
you are kind of wasting your breath. Hopefully, you can get somebody to the point where they will listen. But like the whole like lead a horse to water thing.
But you can't make them
Uh,
drink. Yes.
But yeah, yeah, there is kind of a thing that has kind of helped a little bit. It's kind of that like active listening. If you can show them that you have understood what they're saying and you can like repeat it back, or steel manning their argument. Sometimes that helps, but only to an extent. Like again, if they're not going to actually listen to you, you're just kind of wasting your breath.
Yeah, I mean, you can
but
force
hopefully
them
by showing them that you have
optically
heard them.
to sort of do that. Sometimes you can force
Yeah.
certain people, like some people. As much as I hate this term, I use your clout to sort of force someone into confronting or at least deal with it. And sometimes you might not change their mind. Is it good to sort of use sort of a good faith argument or something to at least bring someone to the table publicly so you can have that discussion to sort of iron out the details?
I mean, I think if you want to change someone's mind, you have to avoid things turning into a debate. You have to keep the conversation civil and pleasant and casual.
Definitely.
If the fucking aliens came down and they were like, in order to save humanity, you have to change this guy's opinion on TLJ. Like, if that was your job and like it is the most important thing in the world to change someone's opinion about something they care about, the only way you could do that is by being their friend. Like, you have to be friendly to them. You
Yeah.
can't have an antagonistic relationship and change someone's mind. It just is not fucking this is something that's been studied. It just is not possible. They will just double down.
Cognitive dissonance.
There's like
backlash effect.
almost no one. You're talking maybe 1 person in 1,000 is actually willing to change their mind in a heated setting. So like, if you really, really want to, which I'm telling you, it's a waste of fucking time. But if you want to waste your time for some reason, then keep the conversation as casual as possible and be as pleasant as possible and try and be their friend. Like, that's the only way it's possible.
Yeah.
That's the only way.
And
it's
with
ever
some
gonna
people, that's
And
completely
it's
impossible.
tough. It would probably take multiple attempts to actually like get through them. That first one's probably just going to be establishing rapport. Like, you're not really going to be able to push back as a friend.
happen. Yeah, like, and
it kind of sucks.
and another thing you have to understand is that a lot of the time, it's not even necessarily that one of you is right, one of you is wrong. It's that you have a different set of values. I mean, this is especially true in media conversations. There are lots of people I talk to where they just have fundamentally different values about media than I have, and no one is ever going to win that. No one's ever going to win the argument. There's no way to win the argument because you don't agree on the foundation of what the argument is even about in the first place.
Yeah, like I couldn't do romance films because the fundamental premise of romance films is just fundamentally something I don't look for in stories. I'm fine with action films and all other introducing a romantic
But, like,
element.
romance can be in there, right?
Yeah,
Like,
romance can be
okay.
in there, but as a
Romantic
prime
novel.
focus, I would suck. I'm like, okay, this is just about two people trying to
Okay.
get
All right.
together. And
I
yeah,
gotta go.
bye, Cat
later,
Drew.
Thanks. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. All of this is so great. Thank you. But yeah, real life
Yeah,
calls or
I'm
IRL
doing a
calls.
hard cutoff. I probably at 5 actually in this, unless anyone else wants to bail. I think there's a little bit more we can go into, but I like what we've been doing, and thank you for coming on, Andrew.
Thank
Andrew
you. Thank
Clark,
you.
people. I'll
You're the man,
try to
Andrew.
link
Always
this
nice to talk to you.
afterwards.
Oh, it's Andrew Clark. I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah. No.
It is the Andrew.
And I almost
Catrew.
wish you would stay here just because I want to discuss something with Parallax. We sort of got together out of the Kidith community, and she does
Mhm.
debate diagrams.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
a very
By the way, about your thing, Parallax, you might want to try and connect up with her because she works in advertising professionally and has a degree in psychology, so she might
really?
actually be able to help you.
Probably, yeah. that's what I'm doing right now.
Context.
No, that could be really useful. She joined my Discord server and never verified. She's the only person sitting in the verified channel.
Oh
Hilarious.
God. Okay.
All right.
It's pretty funny.
All right,
Yes.
thanks, guys.
Take care.
Great to see you, man.
Bye.
Okay, but what about something like not many people are going to get into it? It's a crazy concept. Just debate, diagramming these debates and sort of seeing.
It adds an extra element to it. Like I've seen it. I really enjoy it. To me, like maybe it's the nerd in me, but I kind of see it as like art. Like it's really fun to see like the way that a conversation branched out and like, okay, it got diverted into this way and then it takes this weird jog. I don't know. It's really interesting, but I don't know, Parallax. It doesn't seem like you are necessarily into the spectacle of debate.
Well, I've done the same thing, and it was just
seeing a diagram.
well. The reason I had the opinions I have is because I used to do that. Basically, that I would like go through like that's something I had to do for the Vosh video was go through and like really in detail figure out what the fuck was even going on in these
That makes
conversations,
sense.
and like it's a very black pilling experience.
I could definitely see you doing that with that.
Yeah,
video.
like
Wow.
I did basically the same thing. The result of is just like, oh, this is like not serious. Like this is not a productive way to communicate with people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I don't
sort
know.
of
And it
going
takes a long
over
time
it and
to
seeing where the
diagram something, but-
misunderstanding is, you could probably figure out how you could, if someone was willing to have another conversation and you did look at a diagram and see where the problems would be. And you probably would have to pull back on many of your positions, but some people will still just take the same position that they did before and just double down, the backlash effect.
I mean, I just had too many bad experiences. You gotta understand, I'm in my mid-30s. I've been arguing on the internet for a while, like not my first rodeo. And like
Sure.
I've had a very consistent experience across multiple types of arguments. Every comment, like just very, very consistent level of this being unproductive and unpleasant. So like I am just tapping out. that's
I like
that's
what
my
you're
perspective.
doing moving forward with trying to create more positive, but if you have an interaction with someone and want to capitalize on that with, more, not necessarily a debate, but a discussion where you disagree over a certain matter, it definitely
Well, you just
would
have a
help you.
conversation. I mean, like that's the thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a fucking debate. Like if I respect someone and I want to talk to them, and I'm going to take their opinion seriously. That there's like I love those conversations. Like that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that the other person is trying to win the fucking conversation because the same thing happens every time. It's what I said earlier. It's like I'm willing to concede ground and try and see things from their point of view, and they won't do it to me. So I concede a little bit of ground to try and get in goodwill, and it doesn't get in any goodwill because they have no interest in conceding anything.
No.
They're just trying to win the fucking conversation. So I gave an inch and they didn't give anything, and I lose. And it's happened too many
Exactly.
times.
Optically,
I like it's just it's a
Yeah.
fucking waste of time. So like if I respect someone, I think they're going to have a conversation and actually be reasonable. That it's not going to be a fucking debate. Like it'll be a pleasant conversation. It's a whole other thing.
So does a debate turn you off from that relationship? Let's use Stitch and Adam as an example. Are you going to go back on there later and still talk to him?
Well, when I talk to, I mean, you gotta understand, it's basically performance art at this point. Like,
Yeah, I understand that.
but it's really fun.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
audience does enjoy it. I got to say, as a member of the audience.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, like, if I were to explain to you how to win an online debate, it would be the exact opposite of what I did when I was talking about Barbie. I mean, like one thing I would say is like, you will basically never come across well if you get angry. Like getting angry, it loses the debate. That's why Vosh doesn't get angry. You'll notice he stays
Yeah.
he stays very calm while trying to provoke his opponent, because if his opponent gets angry, he wins optically. It is very smart. It's very, very effective. So like I understand that if I was trying to, if my goal was to like, win an online debate, which I just wouldn't do that. I would never have an online debate that I knew was going to be a debate because I have better things to do with my fucking life. But like, if I was going to try and do that, one of my main goals would be to not get angry. And like, if you see me go on Stitch and Adam, it's fury out of the gate because it's funny. Like it's good content.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Good content is the opposite of good conversation. And in the way that we're talking about debates.
Does it have to be though?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean,
I don't know. That is a comedy show, so it's great. But like, I don't know. I don't feel like this has been particularly contentious. I don't know. This is great content, but like, is there somewhere in between that, like, super performative and I don't know, like whatever
if two people
would.
If people understand what's going on, if two people are basically performers, and they're trying to have a serious
mock
conversation,
debate, so to speak. Like,
well, if they're trying to have
something about,
if they're trying to have
Jar Jar Binks or Scrappy Doo, who's the worst character? Should we say?
Let's say two.
Come on, hands
Okay,
down.
two people.
Scrappy Doo
If two people with
horrible
media
worst
training, they understand what's going on. They want to have a sincere conversation, but make it entertaining. Then yes, absolutely. Like you can, and I could tell you exactly how to do that. But that's not. That's a faux debate. Like you're creating something that looks like a debate, but isn't. Like that's performance art.
Yeah,
it's like
it would be.
you're being sincere, but you're pretending that it's a debate to make it funnier.
Like we did have one debate about sci-fi versus fantasy, and he just kept on baiting me. I'm like, oh god, you keep talking about salting a little bit of fantasy onto sci-fi. You're really pushing it.
It's the way
it was in all good fun, and
you need a dusting of fantasy in there.
That's just good content. But like,
oh, not great because I'm still practicing, and Gray is still working with it. You have more experience with us.
Yeah, I go argue with Stitch because it's funny. Like
it is.
If my goal was to change his mind, I would not go on the show because it's a fucking waste of time.
Yeah, would be.
So I don't think you're changing his mind, but like I was totally primed. So
you can
going
change
into
Adam's
Barbie,
mind
I had seen your guys' debate, and I had seen Ben Shapiro's like reaction to it. So I was fully primed to be like, okay, this thing is gonna suck. Like this isn't for me. And I love the film. Like I don't know, I just couldn't have seen like both Ben Shapiro and Sitch's take on it just as more incorrect. Like they were just bringing their own baggage into this.
Oh, talking about Ben Shapiro,
and I don't know, it just made me appreciate your entire debate on that. It was like, yeah, you know what? Looking at this, granted, some of it was definitely performative, but I don't know, man. You kind of changed my mind, and I was definitely thinking more about.
It wasn't me arguing for Barbie in
and
those discussions that changed your mind any.
Well, so the thing is,
because like once I saw
so
it,
I need you to get back from the cliff of thinking this is a productive use of time. Okay, you fall into both of my exceptions. Number one, you didn't have an invested opinion, and number two, you're a reasonable person. That's usually not the case.
Okay. Well, I appreciate
it's usually
that. I'm
not the
sure
case.
that both of those apply, but thank you.
No, but you definitely didn't have an invested opinion because you hadn't seen the fucking movie. I mean, like,
no, I hadn't, but like, I don't know. I had been primed with
stance.
Shapiro and PSA Sitch, and I was like, okay, if this is really going that hard with the ideology, then this is just horrible. But I don't know. I actually watched it and was like, hey, this is
well, the thing is, like, their argument is just fucking insane. Like, it's just not. So, it's like not what the movie represents at all.
Oh, what's worse is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It didn't represent anything. That's what blew me away more. I'm like, what the hell? Oh, sorry, that was a stupid take. Completely and utterly. But yeah, absolutely. There's definitely ways to convince people, and there's entertainment, and it's really hard to reconcile it. And
I mean, as a general principle, I can extend this beyond debates. Like, just trying to change someone's mind is, generally speaking, fruitless for a lot of reasons. Like one thing, if I was talking to someone, like some 18-year-old or something wanted life advice, I would straight up tell them, like, don't try to change people's mind unless they ask you for advice. Like, do not just give someone unsolicited advice. It basically never goes well, regardless of how accurate your advice is. And like, and when someone asks you for advice and you give them good advice, they will ignore it 80% of the time. Like, so many people have asked me, because when I was going through school, I was educated in math, let's say, in math and finance, and so like people would ask me, should I buy this house? And I said no every single time for like the most obvious fucking reasons that every single one of them did. And it fucking turned out bad every single time. It's like obvious. Like, yeah, you bought a house that you can't fucking afford. You don't have any goddamn money. and your work situation and your personal situation are both
property never decreases in value.
they're both unstable. I'm like you can't even say with confidence that you want to live in this city in 2 years, and you don't make that much money. Obviously, you shouldn't buy oh, they bought a fucking house. Great. Like people just don't fucking listen. And like if someone that like you respect comes to you and asks for advice, then give them your advice. But that's basically the only situation. If you don't respect someone, don't give them advice. They won't take it. They're dumb. And if someone doesn't ask, don't give it because they don't want it. Like straight up. Like just trying to change people's minds in general is not a very productive use of time. And if you want to change people's minds, the way that you would do that is through public discourse, and especially not debates. Like again, try to be a respectful person, try to be friendly. Don't get angry ever. And again, just try to be a calm and pleasant person. They need to see you as someone who is friendly, and then maybe you can change some people's minds if you really have this fetish for some reason. But for the most part, just let people live and die with their dumb fucking ideas. Like it's just a fucking waste of time. Find the 3 people who are reasonable and talk to them, and ignore everyone else. That's the fucking base take.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Find
It's
the
pretty
few people out there. I'm sure there's more than 3. There might be 4 or 5 out there. Not more than a dozen, that quote, think about how dumb the average American is and realize 50% of the population is dumber than that. It's always been my baseline take on that general premise. But yeah, so
I like to look at them as 50% or smarter.
So for online,
I guess that's the difference.
So even in online discourse, you're being a rather doomer. Sorry, Parallax. You can't change anyone's mind. So what is the utility?
You can. It's that the effort to change people's minds is vastly disproportionate to the utility of changing people's minds.
It's about the time investment and the methodology, and
what
your skill set is.
The way that I look at it is the kind of person who is actually open to having their mind changed is probably the kind of person who is going to, on their own, expose themselves to information and arrive at the take they're going to eventually arrive at. They probably don't need you to change their mind. Like taking me, for example, most topics I don't know fuck all about, and I don't care about them. I'm like, no one's going to change my mind because I just don't give a fuck. Like, don't come with me and talk about the Roman Empire. I don't give a fuck. I just don't care. I'm not going to process whatever bullshit you're talking about right now. And if I am invested in it, I do not need you specifically to be talking about it, because I'll go find the people who are talking about it on both sides of the issue and look into it myself. But that's only going to apply to a small, minority of fucking issues. So like, someone.
Well, what if we include Indiana Jones? Will that interest you?
in what?
Yeah, throw Marvel. Let me explain the Roman Empire through Marvel lore logic. There are ways to onboard people, but it's rather hard. I would definitely say it's hard to introduce new concepts into the ecosystem. It's better to find a new angle at what's already being discussed.
Like if you're the kind of open and curious and intellectually honest person who finds these conversations stimulating and like you're interested in changing people's minds, what you should do is just find other people like that who are open and honest and reasonable, and make a private Discord server with them where you are safe from the mindless hordes. Like that's the appropriate thing to do. You don't wade out into the zombie apocalypse and with the fucking Bible talking about Jesus Christ. Like they're zombies. They're fucking NPCs. You're wasting your time. You're going to get bit.
But what if you have the cure? Okay. What if you find
there's no cure.
I know
it's a human condition.
I know. But you can wake up.
I guess there is a cure for the human condition.
So you don't believe in wokeness?
Okay, Hitler, jeez.
You don't believe in wokeness, Parallax.
I didn't say the final solution.
Oh God. But yeah, so good faith. I don't even know if we should stay on this topic. It's an interesting thing, but the utility of it seems futile. And I'm starting to see that myself. And I've waded into different waters than you. It's not. It's very productive. It's just not productive for debates, because debates are dumb. Like if you're going to have, we got on the debate topic, but
if you're going to have if you're going to have an honest and open conversation with someone, it has to be good faith, or it's not going to be productive. So like, it's very important, and it does exist. It's just like, you need to understand that, like this, like that's what I'm trying to illustrate, is like the separation. It's like you can have productive conversations. They're just never going to look like debates. And if you have a conversation that starts to look like a debate, it is probably a waste of time.
Probably. Okay, you can manufacture fun little arguments between friends, like certain good content partners do. That's probably why you have Patrick Gray. So you can manufacture the sort of banterness between yourselves, I'm guessing. It's a good strategy partnering up with him. You just probably wish he had more time.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially since
He's
he
a
has
great
that
guy.
She-Hulk
Wish he had more
take.
time.
You can make fun of it for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I liked Velma, so
Yeah.
I have a hot take of my own. But yeah, I don't understand how he likes She-Hulk. But to each their own. Yeah, I definitely have a few hot media takes, but yeah, it's always nice to be able to bounce off of that dude because I do find him extremely reasonable, and he definitely does see things a different way, but he's willing to actually like talk about it. So
Yeah, he's willing to
yeah,
be frank
it
and
definitely
open.
helps.
That's the good thing about New
Yeah, it
Jersey
doesn't seem like
people.
a
They're
debate.
frank and honest and not quite as annoying as New Yorkers, to be all honesty. In my perspective, New Yorkers are just. But overall, it just works, I guess, like Bethesda says. But coming back, so how could we change your mind, Parallax, on anything? You seem rather resilient to anything.
I mean, it depends. If it's something that I've been thinking about for 15 years, like good fucking luck. I mean, I have my perspective and my values and preferences, and if I'm very educated on the topic, like you just probably won't, because whatever you say, I've probably heard before. But like, if we're talking about something I don't know particularly much about, then my mind is very easily changed.
Yeah, I completely understand that. It's definitely a task or just adding a new perspective. Like when I was going through Barbie with all these people, I was trying to bring up, Greg can probably vouch for me here, bringing up the mirroring to everyone who's like,
Nope, I don't vouch for you at all.
oh, fuck,
Sorry.
of course not. Of course, you would turn on me. So you're like, oh, Adam turned on the Parallax here when he came into the
Yeah, I
Barbie.
do believe the mirroring or the Rorschach test. I do believe you were the first one I heard talk about that, but I really do see that like people keep kind of placing their own ideology on that film in particular. Not to not back you up, but yes, that was the first person that I heard kind of make that comparison. And
Oh man, hold on. I gave a take on Reddit like the day it came out, like the night it came out. Let me find it. I DM'd it to Sitch to fucking harass him. I have to scroll up.
Prove that you did it the day of.
Well, no, you're gonna love this
not
fucking
see
take.
that now.
It was so fucking good. Oh god, where is it?
Sheesh. Yeah, send the link in private chat and I can display it if need be. But yeah, I'm curious about that. Day of. You think
Okay, here we go. Here's the take. This was posted the night that I saw Barbie. I low-key think the film is a purposeful trap for the kind of person who would complain about movies being woke. Like is the first line. And like that's exactly how I feel about it. Is like people this is the perfect movie for people to just insert their ideology in where it does not belong, because like all the political stuff is like fundamentally unserious. Like if you watch the fucking the patriarchy stuff and you think it's a serious serious political statement on patriarchy, you have just lost the fucking plot. I don't know what to tell you. Like it is it is so obviously not serious. And the stuff that is taken seriously is it's this sincere like woman and like being a woman and like mother and daughter stuff, which isn't politically offensive. I mean, it's a bit cringy, but it's not like politically offensive. But like everybody who is a political extremist has to make everything about their ideology. And like it's such an easy movie for people to fucking put all their bullshit into.
Yeah, and like anyone taking Ben Shapiro's media takes seriously at all, or Vosh for that.
Dude, Ben Shapiro said the movie was going to flop and it's going to become one of the top 10 highest grossing films of all time. Like what a fucking L, dude.
Yeah.
What a colossal L.
Really
it's a number 11 right now.
He was also saying that it was really bad marketing, mainly for the deceptive purpose, but it's like, I don't know, how do you argue with that marketing? Like it was so successful. I understand if he thinks it was
because they're trying to trans the kids.
I think he's
Ray.
wrong on that.
They're trying to trans the kids.
You just have to.
I just don't get what's trans about.
You just have to put things in context. Ben Shapiro's not trying to make a fair and balanced take. He's trying to make a take that's like going to appeal to his fucking audience, and he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure whatever he said appealed to his audience. It's just fucking dumb.
And they're doing
and wrong.
Starfield right now with all of Friday Night Tights crew, which I don't think will really work out. I think they just look dumb, but their audience will definitely go with them. With defendant Az on that and his dog shit video.
Well, there's a lot of people that aren't really interested in media except as basically a weapon and the tool of discourse. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of, I mean, some of the biggest, honestly, media people who talk about film on YouTube, they don't even really talk about film. They're just like talking about the culture war or whatever the fuck. And like whatever video or, movie or game or whatever comes along, it's just another weapon to be, analyzed. How is this woke or not woke or whatever the fuck. And like that is that is basically the opposite of what I want my content to be. Like the exact opposite.
I think Starfield's a even more big. I think that's more of a litmus test. As I said, Barbie's more of a Rorschach test, and the Starfield discourse seems to be more of a litmus test because there's many arguments against it. You probably won't be playing it though.
No, I mean,
If you
I
had
hope
time, even.
I hope that I'm going to be working 80 hours a week for the next year, so I do not have time. But
Really, you want an early grave? It sounds like.
I had a problem. I could go through this in detail if you want. But basically, I had a large problem that was stopping me from being as productive as I could be, and I figured it out. So basically, now I have like a holistic view of my channel, a very, very, very good idea of what I want to do and how I want to do it, and like I am just extremely fucking motivated. I just want to work all the time, basically.
Okay, you need to try to see if your theory works out, and then if it doesn't work out, adjust it slightly. I'm guessing from what I'm getting from your channel, and I definitely admire what you're trying to do with your channel. Try to stay away from all this sort of bullshit out there. Be a more honest take on media. But frankly, I don't know how you're going to market it because, outrage sells. I mean, we went over Heels versus Babyface. Even though he had such a stupid take, he doubled down and he's probably going to grow from it. And
there's lots
of pain to me.
Like I said, there's lots of positive content creators that do fine. Like Every Frame of Painting for the longest time was, I mean, he still is the most respected film channel, but he was also one of the most successful. I mean, Super Eye Patch Wolf is very successful doing that. And Mr. Beast is the most successful channel on YouTube, and he does positive content. I mean, like
he gets a lot of shit from people. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, and anybody who's number one is going to catch shit from people. I mean, like the fucking Mr. Beast criticism is pretty rancid. But like, I mean, I'm telling you, positive content absolutely can work. It's just harder. It's harder to figure out. Like the biggest egg for me to crack right now, the one thing I'm not totally figured out what exactly I'm going to do, that I'm going to have to iterate on probably for years, is like, how do you make it entertaining? That's a serious trick to
I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But I'm more about experimental without a purpose like you do. I just put out whatever I want, like this sort of discussion we're having now, to sort of understand underlying thing. And good faith, you can do good faith. I think overall it's a good foundation to be honest with your audience and there's some people who don't need to seek an honest audience, as we brought up with Hassan and definitely with the Phantom Initiative, that Gray is focusing a lot of his content around. What is your thoughts about honestly going after what you see as bad actors? Does it still make you come off as bad faith?
I mean,
what do you mean by going after?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a big old, it depends. I mean, like, it depends what you do. It depends how you do it. I mean, like,
I've seen the defense. These people make, like, a lot of people do this. I don't make content about these people because I dislike them. I'm trying to stop bigotry and misinformation from being spread. I'm assuming that's just an optical way to sort of tie yourself to bigger content creators and still feel like you're creating something of value. Is that just a personal cope or audience cope, or do you think some of these people generally believe it?
I mean, it's a case by. I mean, virtually no one does things that they believe to be wrong. I mean, like, if someone is doing something, they probably believe that it's correct, even if that's really dumb. So, like, I mean, it's the world isn't full of like manifestly evil people that are like, I'm gonna go purposefully spread misinformation on YouTube to make the fucking platform worse. Like, there's not going to be very many people like that. Everybody has their cope or their perspective or whatever. Um, but I mean, like, how do you come across? I mean, like, it just depends. Like, if you're like, if someone is doing something that's like nobody would really support it, if you shine a light on it, then you will always come across very well. Like, there's lots of content creators like CoffeeZilla that go after people that are like scammers. It's an entire like genre of YouTube, and as long as someone actually is a scammer, you will always look good, because what they're doing is like, it's, you know, it's indefensible. Nobody would support it. But if it's like you're going after someone who's like gives media takes you don't like it is going to, it's going to have an
bite
influence
you in the ass eventually.
well, it's going to have an influence on your audience is the thing.
Okay.
Like there are lots of people who would enjoy, there's a certain kind of person who loves the idea of blood sports and loves the idea of you going out and like making their enemies look stupid. And like, you can be successful with those people if you do that content, but you need to understand that's going to be your audience. Like, you're going to have an audience of people who actively want blood sports and you know, arguments and shit like that. And if you stop doing it, then you're going to have a problem. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure this happened to EFAP. They were founded on going after content creators saying dumb shit, and then they stopped for a while, and like, people were fucking complaining about it all the time because like that's what their audience wanted. Like, you just need to understand that if you build a career doing a certain kind of thing, then like, you need to keep delivering the same experience to your audience. And if you don't, then they're going to get upset because they came to you for a very particular thing. And innovation is usually finding a different way to deliver the same thing. Innovation isn't like doing some completely different fucking kind of content. So like, for me, for example, what I'm trying to do is to create positive content that basically makes people feel calm and not anxious, somewhat inspired on occasion, and just generally feel good. I want to create stuff that like people can use sort of in an escapist way or in an insightful way, but avoiding the typical anger that's associated with film content, and avoiding a lot of the anxiety that a lot of people would feel, or the loss aversion stuff that they would feel by watching people that get angry and rant about stuff. So like, there's an emotional thing that I'm basically trying to sell people.
Okay.
And there's tons of different ways that I could do that. But if I start making that kind of content, I have to keep making that kind of content or my audience will leave. It is actually that simple. So like, innovation in that format would mean finding different ways to do that, finding different ways to make videos, different topics to cover, different visual formats. Maybe you can change up your audio. You can change up basically anything as long as that basic emotional core is still present.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, if you're making that kind of like attack content, I mean, you would just need to know that your audience, if you attract an audience doing that, you need to keep doing attack content, and you're going to have an audience of, you know, angry man children that, you know, are fucking debate brained and want to argue about whatever the fuck. Like, that's just going to be your lot. So yeah, I mean, it's not good or bad. It's just, what do you want out of your content?
Yeah, it's definitely things for a small content creators growing gray to keep in mind. Definitely very insightful. So, something that I've noticed myself. Unfortunately, I sort of suck at overall. It's only really, who knows how that's going to go. But yeah, you should keep a general focus. Kidda Channel is a much better example of someone, if she wanted to market herself based off of the debate diagrams, just keep up with that and maybe expanding on understanding, but maybe finding a more entertaining way. I mean, she needs to keep that focus. Get it? She's not around, but maybe she'll watch this. Maybe someone can clip it for her. And maybe I'm just a complete dumbass. Maybe we're all dumbasses, but yeah, she wants to keep with that understanding of trying to understand the argument and speak for it and try to make it entertaining to a larger possible audience. Would be
that would attract an audience of people who are like, who enjoy the concept of debates and discussions, but actually want it to be more serious than it is. So like, I mean, the obvious thing that she would want to do if she wanted to expand her content out of that would be to start having discussions with people that were, you know, calmer and more in good faith. I mean, like, that would be,
and disagreed with her, or maybe
the contentious conversations, but respectful conversations. Like, that would be something that her audience would enjoy, as long as I'm understanding her content correctly.
Yeah, she would have to pivot into that, get more into it, and sort of find a way to do it her own way that she could handle and make entertaining. I mean, she's doing good with what she has, but it's still a very small audience, a small community. And what's your thought on creating communities? Because I'm finding a lot of people are building a lot of their channels off of not just networking, but communities via Discord and conversations that way.
So that's a really big, it depends. So there's a difference between, there's two broad audience categories that I call casuals and super fans. And the vast majority of people are always going to be casuals. But the thing is, a lot of content is sort of disposable. And in that case, all of your audience are going to be casuals. So, like Legal Eagle is a good example of a channel where, pretty much everyone likes his content, but you're not going to find someone that's like, Legal Eagle is my favorite YouTube channel. People aren't like super committed to it.
And there's some people who are going to hate him because he has a certain political leaning, but he's rather mild with it.
But the thing is, it's what I'm trying to say is that it's shallow content, but it's broad. It's like general entertainment. It's something that can appeal to a lot of people, but people aren't going to like be basing their identity around it. It's like he's the pleasant guy who is enjoyable and like who you go to if you want the details on the latest legal whatever, and it's like he's not going to start a serious community around that probably. There's consequences to making that kind of content. First of all, you're typically reliant on sponsors because people aren't. If you make that kind of content, you're much more reliant on like sponsors and affiliate marketing and like AdSense because people aren't super invested in you personally, and that kind of content is sort of interchangeable. If you want to build a strong community, then you need to have a really strong personal presence, and you need to have the kind of content that a smaller group of people is going to be really invested in. And as long as
I don't necessarily agree with you need to form at least a good support network based off of you.
Well, people need to be invested in you. Otherwise, like,
yes.
Why would I go join the Discord server of Legal Eagle? Like, the only reason would be if I was like interested in listening to lawyers talk about stuff or something. I mean, I don't even know why I would do that, but like, I can understand why I would join the Super Eye Patch Wolf fucking Discord. If you're really invested in something, then you want more of it in your life. If it's like important to your identity or whatever, if it's something that you really personally relate to, then people will get really invested in it. And like, that's where good communities get formed, is when you have, there's a large enough group of people that are really invested in it that you can actually, get people to that would, without you having to tell them to do it, join your Discord and like talk to each other. And, that's how communities form. I've never seen a particularly strong exception to that. And like, communities certainly require a lot of investment, like a personal investment from people into that content creator. And if a content creator isn't getting a lot of personal investment, then it's just not going to happen. But then like, if you are that kind of person where people are invested in like you and your perspective and like they identify with it, then it's like, should you have a community and how do you start one? I don't know exactly. I'm still struggling with that myself.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that among content creators. I think just being more honest, open with your fans. I agree with your general thing, like Legal Eagle, even Super Eye Patch Wolf is a way to get in touch with other fans. You don't necessarily have, it would be just a place for people of like mind who are fans to sort of share stuff. EFAP has a lot of people have that mindset. They share the fan work, things like that, and that helps build community and there's a certain limit to how much they can engage with that community. And yeah, I'm processing it and being very honest with your community, good faith, should I say, at least with your community.
The reason that lots of people do it is just because it makes people more parasocial and it increases the probability they subscribe to your Patreon, buy your merch and shit. So like, there's no downside. I mean, like, if you can get people, this is just marketing 101. Like, if you can get people on an email list, you can get people in a Discord and to listen to your notifications, they're more likely to engage with your content. That's why people do it. But
and you would have to give them a reason to engage with that Discord or those emails.
That's what I'm trying to say is like, almost everyone has a Discord, but most channels don't have a fucking community. Like, the Discord channels are dead. Like, I mean, there's not, people aren't like, it's not like fucking community. The areas where there are communities where there's people that are very personally invested. like EFAP or Destiny's community or whatever. And like
And
those are people with a
DGP.
lot of personal and those are people with a lot of personal investment in what's going on. That's why you get an actual community instead of a Discord server.
Yeah, and you'll get those super fans who'll defend them no matter what, and you'll get some people who are just casually in the Discord trying to figure things out, seeing what's going on, seeing what fan art. It's still something I'm wondering about around building it. It definitely is complex, and it's good to know about these underlying issues. Gray, you have a Discord set up for yourself? Sorry. You just been quiet.
At one point I did. I never really did anything with it. But yeah, I mainly just operate out of Kitty's Discord because, you know, it's awesome and welcoming. But I don't know. I'm very much a internet boomer, Discord boomer, if you will. I don't know. It's not mainly my thing, but
As Parallax said,
yeah,
I don't have to.
it seems like it's a great improvement to like message boards and stuff. I really dig it, but yeah, it took me a long time to get in.
So-
It didn't seem as
So no
user-friendly.
no super secret server that you plan things. Sorry,
Not
inside
for
joke,
me.
Parallax.
No, unless it's so secret that even I don't know about it. But you never know.
But yeah,
Maybe.
the more time you spend in Discord, it's not worth the time investment to try to engage. As you were saying, try to debate everyone. When you were going with the Vosh video, you were trying to do that, and that's not worth. Like even in my instances, I just try to conversate with the actual certain people who seem to have an argument, and not just everyone who's questioning me. It's engaging with everyone, but at least engaging with one person when you have people criticizing you is a worthy investment. Even if they seem to be bad faith, you deal with them in good faith, at least from an optical perspective, like not getting angry, making jokes instead of just raging out about people. I think that's one of Southpaw's biggest problems is the optical thing of trying to argue with everyone in the comments section. But let me not go too deep into that.
Oh, you can't do if people want some very simple, like how to be a YouTube person, or how to be a public figure, you should not under any circumstances be arguing with fucking people in your comment section. It makes you look fucking, there's nothing to gain and everything to lose. It makes you look fucking horrible. And like, and beyond that, even beyond how it looks, which it looks bad and it will always look bad. The more important thing is that if you let the trolls know that you will engage them, then people will troll you. Like if you let people know that, like, if they act like a dickhead in your comment section and like they can actually get a rise out of you, oh man, you were so fucked.
Yeah, I agree with that. I
just handed them a weapon.
Yep, I think I keep calm.
Yeah, you basically put a target on your head and gave them a gun. Like, yeah, very smart.
Yeah, I'm surprised there aren't more videos on a certain content creator who does that exact thing. But you know what? Sometimes someone has to be a big enough target, and some people just get mocked offhanded, and no one really cares. But maybe that's not good faith to point that out. Good faith, I don't know. I'm thinking of wrapping this up unless anyone wants to add anything else. Do a conclusion where we talk about good faith and criticism where it comes from, where its place should be. But if anyone wants to add anything.
In conclusion, the human race is a failed experiment and don't talk to people. It's a waste of time.
I think they're only half failed.
I'll take the fence center. I would say 25. No, sorry, 75%. I'll go more between half and I'll take the halfway position. Good faith is
there's so much advances and good things out there. I don't know.
I should be clear.
Parallax was talking
I should be clear.
Like,
I'm very optimistic about like life in the world. I'm just pessimistic about people because they suck.
Oh, fair enough.
Fair
okay,
enough.
I can get behind that.
Especially internet people who spend too much time on
exactly. Yes. You gotta find
okay.
that there's
I
like
guess we can
there
all
are
agree
good people. You just need to find them and hang out in private and stay away from the mob.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good advice. I mean, it's kind of a mic drop on that one. Like that's
well, I think the people you hang out with should be more open to other people's perspective, but not necessarily engage with them necessarily. I think that's a good compromise. Sorry, I'm being too much of a fit center centrist, I guess, here. Gray, did I cut you off on that?
No,
Okay.
not really. I can't even remember what I was saying.
Yeah, doesn't matter. I think we had a very interesting discussion. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to bug anyone again for a while and just go with my own thing with my own streams. Anyone want to plug stuff before I end this?
No. Check out Thinkers on Thursday on that darn Kitty's channel. It's fun.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Join us for a think.
Maybe they can convince Parallax to come on sometime. Probably not, but Parallax, any good plans?
I have a lot of plans, but you will not know about them for probably 2 or 3 months.
Okay, you're
But, do I ever have plans?
It's not going to be dated. You're just going
That's
to
awesome.
have a whole backlog of content. It's just going to come out, bam, bam, bam.
I think what I'm going to do is, I'm working on a really big project that it's kind of like it's like a business manual basically for figuring out everything I need to know to run a YouTube channel, figuring out all ahead of time, setting up all the systems. And it's
Wow.
like, basically think about, instead of trying to make a video template that will cover every conceivable thing I could need to know about making videos, and then figure all that shit out,
Damn.
write it all down, and have all this figured out so that when you're going through the process of making a video, you don't have to constantly make every decision from first principles. You have a guide, and most of the decisions will flow smoothly. So when you come to a difficult decision, you can spend time on that instead of spending a fuckload of time working through every individual thing every single time, which is what a lot of people do. It's what I was doing, and that's not what you want to do. You want to get a plan. So basically, I'm probably going to spend like
So you're giving everyone a cheat code.
but yeah, I'm like making a plan for myself for like, what are my, like, identify in very specific terms, what are the goals for my content? What kind of channel do I want to have? And then how do I accomplish that through the various choices you have to make making videos? And then like what different content form, basically just figuring out everything that I want in a discrete, explicit format. Then I'm probably going to upload one video a week to my second channel, or one video a day to my second channel for like a month. I'll probably upload like 30 videos, just grinding through, trying to figure out certain things with intonation and audio editing and just all the sort of like the basic technical stuff I have to get right. Then I'm going to make 3 videos for the main channel and not upload any of them until I can upload all of them at the same time. Is basically the plan. That'll probably take 3 months, but we'll see.
Is there a reason why you'd want to release all 3 at the same time? Just,
Yeah. So basically,
I don't know. It seems like that would take away, possibly. Am I wrong?
yeah, you're wrong. So like so like it depends on content types. But what I'm trying to do is create evergreen content. Like I'm trying to make videos where they'll be just as good in 10 years as they are today. That's like the goal. And
Yeah.
what some people don't think enough about is that you don't just want someone to click on your video. You want them to become invested in like you, and they get that by watching multiple pieces of content that give them a desirable experience, not just by watching one video. There's so you can probably think of so many
That totally makes
you can probably think of so many fucking times where you saw a video and you were like, that's good, who did that? Oh, I know this guy, but I only saw that one video and I didn't know who the fuck they were. It's that
Yeah.
second time you watch a video where you really enjoyed it, and then it clicks. It's like, okay, now I know who this person is. I've seen 2 videos, they were both pretty good from this guy. Okay, now I am clued into who they are. That's the experience that you want.
That makes a ton of sense with that like initial drop of them. Would like additional uploads? Would you be doing them in like batches of 3? or would
no,
that be
just
the initial
initially.
thing?
So like this was the entire reason.
No, that makes way more sense.
If you've looked at my channels, this is actually why I did the romance tier list, was because I was worried that like I would make a video and people would have nothing else to watch, and I was like, well, I can do that. They'll have 5 hours of content. People have plenty to watch. That way, people would always have something to go back and watch. And if someone is invested in me personally, they're going to enjoy the tier list. It's pretty decent content. It's not super high effort, but if you're invested in me and you want to know what I think, then it'll get the job done. It's like 5 hours of shit for people to watch. That was the idea behind making that. And but there's problems with that. I probably will take that off my main channel, put it on my second channel. And that's why you want to upload 3 videos. This is something I learned from MatPat. He was talking about uploading. He was talking about launching. I think actually he was talking about launching Food Theory, which is like 4 years ago. He did Style Theory recently, but like when he launches a channel, he wants to have like at least 5 videos so that people can get a good idea of what can get a good idea of what the channel is. You don't just want to be a guy who made a video they like. You want to be a channel that they are looking forward to. So yeah, that
makes way more sense. I was just thinking like 3 at a time every time, and I was just thinking like, really, like, would you get the views, or would that possibly like divert focus from the other ones.
And
But
like
that totally makes sense.
this,
I understand everything you're saying about like having more than just one video for them to
this
get.
also explains a trend that you're going to see if you spend a lot of time on YouTube and you sort by popular. You're going to notice that almost all the time, people's most like if you look at a channel that's evergreen, their most popular videos are going to be pretty old, usually. It's sometimes not true, but it's very often true. Even if their more recent content is substantially improved in quality, very often they'll have videos from 6, 8, 10 years ago sometimes. That is their most viewed content. And this is why. It's because every time they upload a video, they'll find new people and they'll be like, okay, I like that video. Let's see what else they got. And then they'll just go back, they'll go through the back catalog. This is like how evergreen channels work. And that's why the first videos people release will very often be some of the biggest videos, because they've just been getting that influx of people, the slow drip of views over time, for 6, 8, 10 years. So even if the content is mid, it will end up with the most views because that channel is how evergreen channels survive on the platform. So yeah, like this isn't, just to be clear, this is like not my opinion. This is like a fact. This is like how the fucking platform works. And you don't need to wait and release 3 videos all at the same time, but it is a very strategically good thing to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very purposefully have the 3 videos be very different. Like within the realm of things I want to do, I want them to be as different as possible, and that will give me a good idea of like which of these content forms do I kind of have figured out, right? Which of these is working? Because if you drop 3 videos at the same time and people have these things to choose from, you will get a very good idea of like which of these format ideas that you have are actually going to be effective. It's a very, very good means of like A/B testing. So that's an additional angle to it, but yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Oh, and Vincent is
Yeah, sorry, I was typing
muted.
the stuff out. I put myself on mute so you didn't get the sort of clackety clack clack. Yeah,
Oh,
that-
I'm not that considerate. I just clack away. Sorry.
I'm glad you just clack away. It makes it easier to just clack
Uh-huh.
back. But yeah, thank you
Mhm.
for that sort of expansive overview. As always with Parallax, it's very informative. Probably should give you some pushback, but
Yes.
we're never going to change your mind. So it's
No,
good to
I'm-
get the information from you.
You can't change the mind of someone who's correct about everything.
See,
Yeah,
I
that's true. It's
generally
really
hate that
hard to do that.
attitude, but you have a good enough sense of humor.
Giga Chad your way through.
Yeah, Giga Chat. I've been watching enough Chud Logic. I understand that logic. I'm not going to call you bad faith, but you're probably not right on everything, but you're right. Trying to understand and change people's mind probably generally for the most part isn't worth the time investment you need to do it.
I'm not-
And even then you're going to fail probably.
I'm not right on everything. What I do better than a lot of people is I'm very selective about the things I give a fuck about, and I always know what I'm talking about. So like it's entirely possible that I give a take that's not correct or it has problems or whatever, but I'm never going to give a shit take. And like I'm very good at identifying the ideas I have that are not particularly strong, and I don't argue them. Like I think that's a big problem people have is they'll just argue everything they believe, and like lots of their beliefs are going to be pretty unjustified. So like the YouTube shit, I've been fucking researching this shit for like a fucking year. It's entirely possible that I'm wrong, but I have very good reason to believe that I'm correct, right?
Yeah.
And it's like everything's an experiment. Obviously, you can try stuff and it doesn't work, and it things could be a different way or whatever. But at least I have good justification for what I'm saying. And like, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be fucking arguing about it.
Yeah, understand. You try to argue certain points. Sometimes you failed optically in certain situations. I'm pretty sure I've done it. Gray,
not
I
optically
think, has
good at all.
avoided. Huh?
I'm not optically good at all.
Yeah, neither am I. That's why I can appreciate you. Gray, you should learn from us. So should Andrew if he's watching this on replay. But thank everyone for coming. Yeah, Lucy brought up that I suck with links. I'll put the links to everyone's video, or at least channel. Maybe I guess I'll link Parallax's one video on his main channel.
We talked about it. I think you should link that. I mean,
Yeah,
you
at
owe
least
him
that
that,
one
Vincent.
video
Come on.
that he's saying the 5 hours of content. Okay, and I'll even link your channel, Gray.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
Wow. Well, take care and have a good day.